Welcome everyone, one and all, to the redemption bracket is what we're calling it. The redemption bracket
Right.
finals here at Risen Esports for the Divine League. I'm really excited to see which of these teams is going to advance because it's 8-Bit versus Wichita Wolves, and they got one thing in common: the team that knocked them here.
Yep, and the team that knocked them down here is the team that's waiting for them in the grand finals. Miami University, Ohio Redhawks have just been on a tear, and both these teams here, they got knocked down. They want their revenge.
They do, and we've had a little bit of a chance to chat because we have seen both these teams fall to the exact same thing, and it was a difficult thing to evaluate the relative strength of, because it feels like every team that's gone up against Miami so far has fallen apart, but they've fallen apart in different ways, right? And one of the ways that I want to illustrate that is around the top side, especially for Wichita Wolves. That seemed to be the one point where they could fight back against the Storm.
Yeah. So Wichita Wolves fell a bit earlier, a couple of rounds ago here. And the problem with Wichita Wolves here as they come in here is unfortunately their roster has had some changes. They've not been extremely stable in the playoffs. They're mid laner for most of the season. PBN unfortunately actually ranked out right before playoffs and so was not eligible. So they've been struggling a little bit. Thankfully, they have the anchors of Mabud in the top lane and Grim in the ADC position. But playoffs have mostly been about Mabud playing that top side. And now running up against 8-Bit, 8-Bit's top laner has not been quite as flashy a player.
Now, if 8-Bit's top laner isn't as flashy, if Mabud is getting ahead, 8-Bit,
Mhm.
I don't feel like it's that bad for them because they've got strengths of their own. Do you mind illustrating what they are?
Oh yeah, 8-Bit strength is every single lane. They've got carry
Yeah.
potential everywhere so far. At least in the game against the Redhawks here, it was Cinna in the mid lane and Cleanse that in the bot lane that really popped off, that really stood out for them here. But if you look at Thirst, if you look at Denizzle, their jungle in the top laner, there's a lot of carry potential there as well. And if Mabud were to slip up, I wouldn't be surprised to see Denizzle be able to actually carry a game.
And Mabud might be punished anyways because I know that we're focusing a lot on him for Wichita Wolves, and bear with us for now, but 8-Bit, they have the potential to run the map in a very aggressive way that I haven't seen from a lot of other teams in Risen Divine. We are getting into the draft now, so we'll see what gets picked up where, but I want you to keep that in your mind as we get in through the draft, and not just the draft, but into the game.
Yep, and as we get into the draft here, 8-Bit on the blue side, banning out the Swain, Wichita Wolves, the Tristana here, but the sort of pocket picks for these teams, at least so far I've been told, is going to be interesting. Was actually Cinna on the Silas, which was an absolute monster, but 8-Bit actually banning that. And for Wichita Wolves, their sort of pocket pick was a Darius for Mabud, where if he can win that lane, he can pretty much solo carry a game potentially.
Now, see, here's the thing. I think that it's your first game. I think you can leave Darius up. We'll see how confident 8-Bit are feeling here. Not because you want to disrespect Mabud actively, but because if there's a time to test whether you can actually deal with it or not, you do want it to be earlier on in the series than later when it can really throw you out of whack. We'll see how they're feeling right now, but there are meta bans that you can prioritize as well. Things like Hecarim right now have not been touched in the draft at all, and they end up going with Varus kind of out of left field.
Yeah, so actually, we're on patch 11.9, Dia. It just ticked over.
That's right.
So, yeah, the Hecarim's kind of been nerfed quite a bit here. The Chem Tank build is no longer optimal because now you've got a lot of health, you don't have enough damage. And Seraphine actually being banned by Wichita Wolves, they're paying a lot of respect here. Grim actually plays Seraphine, so sometimes like you can see it in the ADC role for Wichita Wolves. So a little bit surprised, but you know what, it's a solid ban. And I think Varus has just been picking up popularity in all regions. The lethality build's great in lane against squishies, and the on-hit build shreds tanks. Ooh, first ban.
Yes,
Okay.
speaking of patch 11.9, these kinds of junglers, they've been coming up strong. Diana, though, is the forefront of the sort of new jungle meta. I haven't seen that much Rumble jungle just yet. As much as I kind of pray that we see it today, I'm a fan of the Rumble jungle. Diana is a very potent insta lock-in. And Wichita Wolves, they're gonna respond with the Senna and a Nunu of all things.
I love it. Fisher Friends Nunu. So Nunu is a pick that Fisher Friends likes to pull out, and I actually really like it a lot because it gives so much disengage to a team. It gives so much zone control here, and he ganks very heavily early. Those snowball Tokyo drift moves coming out. Love to see it here. So solid pickup, and especially when you're running something like a Senna that can be kind of picked on, can be abused by divers like that Diana here. That Nunu will help you give some zone control. If not everybody at 8-Bit has dived, then they're going to get separated in those fights.
I'm getting terrible flashbacks to our ARAM game just a few days ago. Our MCR, we went up against, or I went up against the AP Nunu. You were on the side with the AP Nunu. It felt a lot better, I'm sure. But part of the problem is that when there's a Nunu coming at you, AP or not, it is so difficult to run away. And 8-bit don't have disengage yet. It's still very early on in the draft. But if they want to compete with Fish Our Friends' ability to engage, whether they like it or not, they do need something to be able to counter that snowball.
And honestly, Karma kind of isn't it here. Sure, you've got the shield,
Mhm.
but I don't think we're going to be seeing the AP Nunu come out. That means that Snowball's primarily for engage here. Yes, you can run away. And that Karma also, it is a flex pick, but I do want to highlight that for the most part for 8-bit, it has been going to the top lane for Denizzle. I don't believe Sinnoh or Kelsight has quite played it yet. And of course, if you're going to leave that open, it's going to be the our OG combo, Senna, Tahm Kench coming through for Wichita Wolves.
It's surprising to me to see from Wichita Wolves, just because of Grim's existence as a laner, as one of the cores of the team. I'm expecting both him and Mabud to be prioritized here, but a Senna Tahm Kench lane doesn't scream priority to me.
No, and that's one of the reasons why we're focusing so heavily onto Mabud here, because it has been Mabud for most of the playoffs for the last couple of
Mhm.
weeks who has been the focus. And I guess Wichita Wolves have acknowledged that, and they are continuing to place a very high priority onto that top lane. That said, you can never count out a Senna, and Senna is ridiculously strong. If the game goes late, if you don't punish that Senna early here, she will scale up, and she can just outrange the entirety of this dive composition.
Yeah, Grim can become sort of this late game investment win condition. Even though Jinx was banned away, there are still 80 carries that can do it. Of course, Senna, very much one of them. And now you're going to have that in your back pocket. And it puts the ball in 8-bit's court for this early and mid game to see if they can really push to end. Because right now, if we do hit that later stage of the game, there is no answer to the Senna. There's no answer to the safety that Tahm Kench is going to bring her in lane. And it really becomes a lot about how much priority around objectives 8-bit can have.
And that's another great thing that Nunu does here is to get basically perma priority on those objectives. You've got consume here. You've got the ability to gank really well. We are seeing Kiana Ornn banned away from the side of Wichita Wolves here. So they're not wanting to give Sinna any sort of priority. Sinna seems to have two modes, like the supportive mode with like the Ori, Galio, and then the sort of all-in I'ma kill you in your face mode with like things like the Silas, the Kiana, the Yone potentially still on the table here.
Mhm.
And for 8-bit, they're banning out Darius Cassiopeia. So they're respecting Mabud and kind of picking a little bit on Snow or Method, who is coming in the mid lane for a change when we've traditionally seen him in the jungle.
Are we really going with a Galio here? We're really going with a
Wow,
Galio here.
okay.
This is beef on beef on beef. I feel like I've ordered a Royale with cheese, and I'm just waiting to see what gets stacked on top of it as that last pick. Last pick, of course, being left for the top laner of Wichita Wolves, the ever infamous Mabud. Now, 8-bit are going to have to reveal their whole hand here. We're going to find out whether that Karma's going top.
Yeah, and they're looking for mid and potentially their support here. If that Nocturne gets locked in, I like it because now you've got the potential that it's Nocturne mid or Diana mid. Both of these guys can be flexed around. And honestly, into the Galio, I personally prefer Nocturne a little bit, but Diana
Yeah.
does perfectly fine.
I kind of feel like Nocturne mid is the thing here.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to answer a lot of the roams that Galio can make some of your own. I believe that Nocturne's ult will actually deny Galio's for a little while, so you can keep that Galio around you and be able to have fun itemizing into him when he's really built for magic resist. Camille in the top lane as well is a surprising lock-in for 8-bit.
And honestly, it's one of Denizzle's most played champions, and it's a great deny away from Mabud as well. Because when you're looking at the composition from Wichita Wolves, Galio, Nunu, like that's so good with the Camille there. You go in, you pop the hero's entrance, they're all
Do
stuck in Hextech Ultimatum. They just have to eat the absolute zero
Do
here.
it.
But yeah, this
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's bait. It was great. I loved it.
Mhm.
Wichita Wolves baits you into picking the Camille, which is one of your most played champions. It synergizes so well with their comp. You have to pick it away to deny. Then they pick the Jax. And sure, it's not quite as synergistic as the Camille, but the carry potential on it is huge. And when you pick Galio, Tahm Kench, Nunu, you need a huge carry in the top lane.
This plays perfectly into what we just talked about with 8-bit needing to run the mid game as well, because look at the immense amount of just health bar that you need to cut through for Wichita Wolves. It's going to be so hard to just pick these guys around objectives in the mid game. At the same time, they do have that longer range with the Senna that they will scale into, with it for a perfectly suitable 4-man composition that'll be able to challenge you when you're trying to push down the turrets, will be very anti-dive, while Jax just does his own thing in the top lane. I see the win condition for Wichita Wolves here clear as day.
Yep, and not only can the Jax split push, but if Jax does decide to join the team fight, if he's not immediately taken up or CC'd to hell and back here, Mabud can win the team fight here. You don't need Grim on the center to necessarily be your win condition in team fights if the Jax is there. The issue is, can you actually get to that point? Because that's a lot of tank, not a lot of damage, and 8-Bit's got a lot of dive. You can't just kill Kai'Sa, kill Cleanse, and call it a day here. Senna and Thirst on this Diana Nocturne, they can just continue shredding everybody here. If Senna goes down, if Grim goes down, and honestly, with a Nocturne and a Camille, I don't think Grim's going to have a great time of it. Then it's all on Mabud. And if they kill Mabud, well, the Tahm Kench, Galio, Nunu can't take down the Diana. They can't take down the Nocturne. They can't take down the Camille quite quick enough.
It's going to be a sore spot for Wichita Wolves, especially because I haven't seen them really shine in the macro department just yet. I'll wait to see what this game holds for us, but because of that Nocturne you mentioned being an issue that constantly needs to be addressed in the mid lane, it's going to challenge Wichita not just to get their own win condition going in that top lane, but to constantly be aware of where the Nocturne is, what he can do, and to rein in Mabud when absolutely necessary to keep them from losing their win condition.
Okay, and it does look like it's gonna be a Diana jungle more likely. I was just kind of waiting to see where everybody was going, but you know what? They can still switch, but since they've locked it in, I want to talk a bit about this matchup here, because if it was a Nocturne into Nunu, I was going to say that Nunu can just punish. You invade pre-6, and Nocturne can't really fight you too effectively. Diana, on the other hand, will happily duel it out with Nunu here with the sustain. Diana did get a little bit of a nerf to her armor growth, her health regen, and the bonus attack speed, but it's not that significant, and she should still be rather safe in the jungle here. So now Wichita Wolves don't get that sort of huge jungle strength they have, and they're more likely going to have to look at their lanes, namely just the top one, because Galio probably isn't going to win against Nocturne in lane. And in the bot side, Tahm Kench, Senna, yeah, you can get some poke, so it's a possibility, but the raw damage is a little bit lacking for kill potential pre-6.
So is this you expecting Fish, our friends, to just permacamp top lane? Is that what this is all really coming down to?
That's my hope, yes.
Okay.
Definitely. I'm hoping he focuses at top, because once Mabud gets rolling on that Jax, I just don't see a great answer to it, because, you know, if the only thing would be Sinna Paranoia ganking top over and over on cooldown, and even then, maybe Snow can get up there a little bit proactively, or if Fisher French is already ganking top and hovering top, then I think they might be able to win that 2v2.
Yeah, there's counterplay for Wichita Wolves once they do get their win condition online, but we've definitely talked about what Wichita Wolves want to do. 8-Bit, on the other hand, let's talk about not just what shutting down Wichita Wolves looks like for them, but what actually winning the game on their own terms does.
For 8-Bit here, they need to play aggressively. You've got a dive composition that doesn't outscale, and their win con is basically just forcing fights. Kai'Sa isn't terribly long range, so the siege and the turret take isn't going to be great. You need to be catching Wichita Wolves just on open ground, not under turrets. Jungle is going to be fine if you can catch them there as well. So I want to see 8-Bit basically kind of get good vision down, and at 6, when your Diana's up and running, when your Nocturne, more importantly, is up and running there, then you look for ganks. With the sheer amount of damage they have, they should, as long as they've got a numbers advantage, they should be able to burst down almost anybody at around the mid game. And they have to do it because late game, Nunu, Tahm Kench, Gallo, they get real tanky. You might not be able to burst them down. And if Senna's hitting you from half a screen away, it might be a little bit difficult for most of the divers to reach that Senna.
And I really like what 8-Bit have given themselves. You illustrate it perfectly with this composition that does want to be catching you out, because it's a team that we have praised for their proactivity, their ability to push their advantages in that mid game. This is a composition that is built for them, and Wichita Wolves have drafted something very, very safe that I'm excited to see if 8-Bit can really step up to the plate and exploit that. But there's only one way to find out, RMC. That's to send ourselves onto the Rift. So we will see you in just a few minutes as spectator delay ticks down, and we'll get ourselves into the first match of the Redemption Finals. Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first game of Wichita Wolves versus 8-Bit. I'm excited. I think we got some good drafts here. 8-Bit have gotten themselves a composition that fits them to a T, and Wichita Wolves seem like they're praying a little bit to outlast, but certainly something that'll smack hard in the late game.
For sure here. And unfortunately, it looks like while we got into the game, the production has some issues here. We didn't quite make it there. So might cut to a quick break here
Yeah.
while we try and fix this out.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it. I think that I'll seed. I'll give about 5 seconds here. So if our producer wants to cut to a break, they can, and if not, I'll just keep talking 5 seconds. All right, so if you can still hear us, we haven't gone to a break, and instead we've continued with a what is this called? I'm looking for a word now, RMC. A pretty uneventful early game. We've got some vision plays, some defensive positioning, but realistically, Wichita Wolves don't want to do anything. And 8-Bit, they don't need to do anything. They have level 6.
Yeah, if anything, it's kind of weird because Wichita Wolves have that skill in composition here, but there's a bit of pressure for them actually in the early game to try and find some sort of lead. Because if they just sit back, like you said, they're probably going to get run over come the mid game here. So you want to be entering the mid game with a bit of a lead where you can be able to tie it out to the late game here.
All right, we're gonna go to a quick break, just just for a moment here, so we don't miss out on any early action. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, RMC, but we'll be right back so that everybody can hear your beautiful voice. All right, we find ourselves right back here at a uneventful early game, is what I believe I called it at the time, and I'm gonna stick by that, RMC, because as you will see, I am in fact a prophet, and nothing is going to happen at this level 1.
Yeah, we see a bit of fighting over a ward, but that's kind of kind of it, I believe, for the most part here. Yeah, and going back to the point I was making, I expect Wichita Wolves to try and make some sort of proactive move early. You've got the Nunu, so you actually have the stronger jungle for the first little while here. And if you don't, then 8-Bit, well, mid game is going to be their playground, and with a dive comp like that, with the way 8-Bit like to play together, it's going to be a rough mid game.
Yeah, I'm definitely expecting that once level 6, level 7 hits, especially from Cena in that mid lane, we're going to see a lot of visits paid to a lot of people. Last but not least is going to be Grim in the bot lane, as I know that Tom Kench can be annoying to deal with. He's going to be tanky as all heck, but that's a fasting Senna, not the strongest.
Already days here, trying to kind of pull a little bit of trick, get a pushing wave, and it looks like it was kind of successful. But yeah, I don't know if they actually managed to track where Thirst started out here because the leash didn't really happen, didn't really come through.
And Thirst did just clear a board, so they at least know that they're on the
Okay.
bot side, but likely don't know where exactly they started, exactly as you say. And with a Diana that can gank really early on, and do a surprising amount of burst damage in that time as well, you do want to have a little bit of a defensive eye out, especially as Wichita Wolves, who, let's be honest, aren't playing the most aggressive composition. So look out for those early wards, those early defensive wards. And Thirst, thank God he started that sweeper, because it'll get him a little bit of advantage too.
And I'm actually looking at Wichita Wolves jungler to be the more aggressive jungler to start, but definitely their lanes not so much here. And once Fisher Friends is done clearing this bot side here a little bit, I am expecting a gank into either the bot or the mid lane a little bit, and then maybe back to the scuttle, because those are the lanes right now which are kind of in a vulnerable position. Nocturne early is a little bit weak, and yes, should win against the Galio, but the first couple levels, Galio's a bit more burst, and bot lane, Kelsight and Cleanse are so far up right now. Even with that ward, a snowball would still catch them.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to do anything back as Wichita Wolves because you just do not compositionally have an answer to this. It's afforded Cleanse and Calcite a very early cheater recall and a really good, well-played early game from 8-Bit is going to get their bot lane an advantage.
Perfectly played there. I mean, just as we are talking about the fact that Nunu can come in with a snowball, they wisely decide to just completely back out there. And so Fisher Friends, if anything, is only going to be able to look for the mid lane gank if he does even want to go for that.
And it's weird because he went for this odd sort of jungle clear that ended him up around that bot lane scuttle, and now is going to go and try for that mid lane. But it's something that you wouldn't have thought Nunu would go for based on the composition. It might just work out though. Casino doesn't seem to have expected it. That CC connects, but not quite enough damage here. Still has that flash, but doesn't end up investing it. Just that Justice Punch gets him the first blood.
Even better, like clockwork. This is exactly how Wichita Wolves needs to play out. They are early here, and not only is it great in terms of getting the kill onto your mid laner, it's also psychologically very pressuring now for the side of 8-bit right into the ball lane. This is why I love Fisher Friends Nunu.
You actually just can't do anything into this Nunu. Like the engage is, especially at this stage of the game, so potent because you don't have to be AP to do damage.
Yeah, and that's Cleanse's flash burnt just like that on that gank here, and suddenly that Karma Senna bot lane that likes to push a little bit here with that poke has to be super careful. Oh, they're
now there's no defensive vision here, and Cena is on his way. No level 6 on the Nocturne, as is evidenced. Fish Our Friends is going to lock him up, get locked up almost once again as the snowball gets channeled. Are they really going for this? Fish Our Friends needs to back off now. The problem is his bot lane's wave is in a really bad spot, and this needs to be addressed so that Wichita Wolves don't fall further behind.
Wow, and that poke coming down. They're going to be able to shove this, no question. Cleanse is too low to actually be able to stand there and try and get and, freeze the wave. If Cleanse does, Cleanse might just flat out die. But there's a cost to all of this as well, which is Fisher Friends is falling behind. Thirst is now a level up because the Diana was just power farming the entire time. And granted, yeah, your bot lane lost flash, but you managed to get Grim. So kind of a bit of a win on that bot side trade for the side of 8-bit.
And it's odd because Wichita Wolves, this isn't how we expected them to play, but it feels like 8-bit, they haven't reacted, and like you say, have gotten themselves a small advantage, at least in the jungle, or early on. We'll see if this odd game plan from Wichita Wolves actually pans out, because right now, it doesn't seem to be too heavily. Bot lane hasn't been able to back, or rather, only Daze has been able to back, and they still are weaker on the map overall, despite their early plays.
What we have to remember is this is a starving Senna. So the Grim holding it there was perfectly fine. You kind of are okay staggering the backs because you want Daze to get back to farm all of that up. And that's why we only now see Grim backing topside. It's kind of dicey here.
There's a counter gank ready for Thirst as Fish Our Friends rolls down the lane. Dan Izzle so low, gets flashed on by Mabed and finished off. Now it's Diana that's in trouble as Thirst. All your CS is not doing you any good when trapped alone in a brush against a Nunu. He's got to turn tail and run here. Still has that flash. Should be able to escape, but barely making that gank work. Mabed whips it out of nowhere with his jungler.
And that time warp tonic coming in real clutch from Mabed there on that top side. And Thirst, like you said, kind of left a little empty-handed there, and that might be the start of that topside dom we're talking about.
Wait, Cleanse? It's been a while since he played into Senna Tahm Kench, I think. That was a very disrespectful move.
Remember me, was it a minute ago I was saying that Tahm Kench is actually the farming one here, the carry? Gotta respect the Tahm Kench damage. His base damages are pretty nasty as well, and now Kelsight kind of just left down here. This should give them all the priority they need over this dragon here. Bot side dead, jungler not in a great position. Easy dragon.
And given the fact that you have no AD carry right now, I know that we said that Wichita Wolves were the ones that were meant to be forfeiting dragons, but before this level 6, they've gotten an advantage that actually nets them one, and this is pretty big.
A lot of 8-bit strength comes in the mid game when they're starting to get their ultimates, when they can really dive well. So this first Drake was kind of a bit of a coin flip as to which side would be able to get the pressure early. The next Drake was originally where 8-bit should start dominating and controlling all the Drakes. But now with the huge lead that Wichita Wolves have built up, I know it's only 1,000, but at this point in time, it's roughly 10% lead. That is significant here. The second Drake is actually contestable right now for Wichita Wolves when it comes up in 5 minutes.
I mean, that was my question. It was about the 1,000 gold because it doesn't seem that large, but nonetheless, this is an advantage that I didn't expect Wichita Wolves to be able to secure. And like you say, it's netted them the possibility of contesting in a mid game where 8-bit should be running it entirely. And 8-bit, they need to make the aggressive plays now.
Problem for 8-bit is where are they gonna go to make those aggressive plays? Right now, Grim and Daze have just been shoved back into their base. Mid lane's not going so great for them, and topside, Denizel's done an amazing job right now. It's actually a level up. Is an experienced lead despite going down. So huge props to Denizel. But that window feels like it's closing real quick because despite the lead, Mabud's the one with the pressure in that top side.
Cena looks topside right there. Keep your eyes on that mid lane as he thinks about paying a visit to that top side, putting Mabud even further behind here as that kill is still really helpful. A little bit of attention from Thirst as well as making Denizel very comfortable topside, and I'm surprised to see him piloting the Camille so effectively when all I had thought about with this player was this weak side Ornn. This is not weak side play at all, and Thirst, he's coming to make sure that continues. Ganking on the Bud does burn the Grandmaster's might, and with Nunu on his way, the Space Disco has truly begun. Thirst has to flash to avoid getting burst down, but even so, everybody piles in on top of him, and Galio makes the first rotation. Denizel's in trouble now. That Nocturne is just too little too late. Santa can't even show up before a double kill goes over to my Bud.
What I was talking about in Draftia, the fact that yes, Nocturne counters Galio, but if Galio makes the proactive moves there, then your Paranoia's effectiveness is more than halved here. It's definitely not as effective. Bot side, a huge scrap coming through, but Daze is so tanky already right now that he just don't care.
We just need more bot lane 2v2 kills. That's what we need. That's the real thing that Wichita Wolves is sort of the last nail in the coffin of what would secure them a really nice early game against 8-bit that they've had so far on the rest of the map. Even so, this Senna Tahm Kench, so far going unchallenged, is what Cena's looking to address right now because they need somewhere where they're winning.
I don't know about this bot lane, and that's a struggle for Nocturne right now. The best lane for you to gank as a Nocturne is your mid lane, but you are the mid lane here. So you just see the pressure coming in from maybe a roaming Kelsight, maybe from Thirst ganking the mid lane, because if you go for Grim, if you go for Daze, Daze is tanky and can just devour Grim. So that's so hard to dive here. And then you have to be aware that Paranoia only lasts a short while Heroes' entrance is ever available. They just send that down bot to back them up as well.
In the top lane, Mabud flexes his gold lead ever so slightly, but now Snow, like you say, is getting ganked. That mid lane is not long for the world, and even the Galio's AP is not going to be able to outlast it. Fisher Friends tries to make it up, throws a snowball in there, and very quickly gets himself out of the 1v2, but it's gold exactly where it's needed for 8-bit, and a very nice proactive play finally coming out.
That's exactly what we need to see coming through from them. You pick on the lane with the global here. And yes, Snow's been doing a great job, but we have to remember Sinna will outskill and honestly does quite a bit of damage already, is level 7. Now the Paranoia is available. That was just a gank into the mid lane. So now I want to see Sinna be able to rotate that kill somewhere else. Maybe you look top, or maybe you just force another gank into the mid lane, use the Paranoia point blank if you have to here, because that probably is one of the easier lanes for them to find kills in.
Yeah, it just might be the move for right now. Keep in mind that Snow does have a stopwatch that he did not use on the last encounter. So if you can get Fish Our Friends in a position to back him up early enough, we could still see the potential for an outplay in the 2v2 from Wichita Wolves around that mid lane. And it's where we're watching right now is Fish Our Friends. He just doesn't even want the 2v2. He wants the 1v2 to take down Sinna, shut down the early lead. At 8-bit, they make it all too easy. That Nocturne, he's gone.
They drop Herald as well. They're going to get some plates here. I don't think they have enough damage with Nunu and Galio to necessarily take this turret here. But what that kill does also give them is priority. And now Kelsight.
Oh, in big trouble here. Does have a Diana on his tail, but the hero's entrance is going to deny so much of that engage. Double taunt into the absolute zero. Destroys the support. Kelsight gets deleted, and now Cleanse all on his own. Has to burn the flash, but can't quite make it close enough to the wall. It's 3 kills and a dragon for nothing, and Wichita Wolves are running away with the game.
Beautiful exhaust from Daze as well to just completely cut out the Moonfall. But yeah, we were talking Wichita Wolves need an early lead. They have more than just a lead here right now. They are running the map. And we talked about 8-bit being a team that if you give them the tempo advantage, they will just run over you. But right now, they're struggling to survive. They have no vision. They haven't seen Fish Our Friends coming most of the time right now. And they need to just kind of slow it down and reset a little bit, because if they get sucked into the space, they're just going to get run right over.
And vision was the thing that we talked about before the game as being such a huge determiner of 8-Bit's ability to play that mid game. Now, having not played that game, they are really paying the price. And my question to you, RMC, is that with a composition that wants to survive in this mid game, wants to thrive, I dare say, in the mid game, is this the end of the road?
No, not yet. It looks really bad. And if you're in the game right now, an 8-kill lead looks super difficult to play around. But it's worse than it looks here. Their comp still has a mid-game strength. What they kind of need to do, though, is starting to group up, not getting picked repeatedly. Sina?
Yeah, not getting picked repeatedly. There we go. We are going to get the disengage in the mid lane. There was the bot lane spotted on Vision as well, roaming up. So it's not a 2v4 that you want to take yet as Wichita Wolves, especially when the rest of the map is going so well.
So, yeah, for 8-Bit right now, if they lose the mid lane turret, it's not the end of the world for them. In fact, I actually kind of like it because it will then unlock a long lane, which you can punish in, and then you can get Cineroning. I know that you ideally want to get the Paranoia to help your side lanes, but at this point, you want a Death Ball because you're behind and you need to find picks. So
yeah, you need to find picks, not get picked, is sort of the differentiation here. Grim, though, he is certainly finding the picks, along with Days. That inescapable Tom Kench Senna duo is putting in the work in the bot lane, and it's just one of all three lanes that Wichita Wolves are winning right now. Either way, I feel confident with the statement.
You're winning everywhere here. We'll count the jungle as a lane, a huge overarching lane which encompasses all the others. A quick stack check on this Senna. We're looking at a 54 stack Senna here at the 15 mark. It's not bad. Oh, is this the gank we're waiting for? Double TP.
Yeah, we have a TP, and we also have Paranoia up as well. It should at least be one pick here, as Grim is going to get dove under that tower, finally shut down, but it will still be one man escaping. Days out with his life, and 2 teleports invested for a single kill. A shutdown it was, but was it worth it?
8-Bit right now, you take everything you can get, because it's less right now about is the kill worth it so much as just getting the tempo. You have a very aggressive dive heavy team, and you can't do that when you're behind. So starting to find kills anywhere will allow you to maybe have a lane to play through here.
No way. Okay. Like, no way that Sunfire Cape Nunu at level 10 just solos a level 11 Nocturne. Although, we are going to get a little bit of a solo up here. Double people roaming up are not going to be enough for Mabud as he takes down one as if it was just another minion.
Yeah, basically there, Cleanse just cannot step into range of Mabud like that. And I'm a little surprised we didn't see the Killer Instinct to actually get out of the way, because that was absolutely brutal. And I want to point out too, Grim didn't even get the assist. That was all Mabud.
Makes it look super easy and shows Cleanse why you don't roam up the top side into a Jax that is ahead. This is Dan Izzle's own personal hell right now, and you do not get to contest it. Thirst, even punished for getting close to that top lane, is going to be eaten up. Does have to burn the escape on the blue buff Days. Still very tanky in the front line, but everybody else is turning off the Rift Herald. Absolute Zero is trapping everyone in the jungle, and Karma goes down once again. Cleanse repositioning with that Killer Instinct, vicious for the backline, but gets torn to pieces while Days munches person after person and wins the team fight for Wichita Wolves.
Mabud still in a not great situation here.
I think he might win this. Okay, we do get the answer back there. Thirst finds a big shutdown.
What was that? A 1 for 3? Still not worth it. Low health bars on the side of Wichita Wolves, but if you can't finish them, it doesn't matter. And now,
What? Burns the stopwatch now. What a tragedy.
High time. Can they follow up? I think they can.
They might be able to. Cena, is he going to go down here? Doesn't have the spell. There we go. Does have the spell shield right now. So this is actually an unanswered kill, and it makes it a 2 for 3. Not actually the worst thing ever for 8-Bit, who don't have an objective that they want to go for anyway, so it's just gold in their pockets.
They did lose the Herald here, and despite getting the kills, Wichita Wolves is still in full control of tempo right now, and that fight worries me a lot because 8-Bit is a dive comp. They clumped up, they got in there, and they actually kind of had the numbers advantage on that. Mabud was very, very late to the fight, and yet Wichita Wolves just still ran over them. So obviously Wichita Wolves right now win all the team fights, and 8-Bit has to rely on getting picks.
And right now they're trying to find Pick on the dragon, although they might get picked around dragon. It does end up falling, but Fisher Friends is in the area, more than willing to engage, and Thirst does not have a way out here. No flash available makes him a very easy pick off, but you lose one for the dragon, and 8-bit, they live to fight another day.
I was scared 8-bit was actually going to go in for a second there. I mean, that's what their composition wants to do, but that's not what they want to do right now. And that gold lead just keeps growing, Dia. Wichita Wolves can afford to give up that one Inferno. They can still pick up the next couple when it comes up. Herald in their pocket. They can just push any lane they want to right now.
We'll see where they choose to go. Right now, Mabud is doing just fine on his own. 1v2ing at the moment, does burn the Counter-Strike, but there's no follow-up available as Daze roams down to his lane. Wants to pick a fight here. Nobody knows that Fisher Friends is on his way, and with the hero's entrance, we're going to get more than just him. The big taunt is going to catch 3, and once again, the absolute zero combat combo deletes Cleanse. Snow makes his way out from under the tower very low. Daze is being focused down. There's no more damage here without the Senna, but in goes Mabud, cleaning up the kills one after another. Thirst so low, gets taken down. Mabud gets eaten and still lives at the end of it. And Wichita Wolves, they clean house.
Oh dear, how did no one go down? The Devour from Daze was so timely here, and they could honestly take this turret if they want to. That was an ace for them there. So, well, they opt not to. I guess they can always reset if they want to. No rush for them right now when you're that dominant.
I'm thinking about how much gold they just collected. Look at the top of the screen. You don't even have to take that tower when you're about to crush 10,000 gold in just one more play like that.
Not to mention Baron coming up in 20 seconds here, Dia. That Baron is just bait for 8-bit. If they so much as look at that Baron funny and get caught, ace, game ends right there. But 8-bit, that's also kind of the best opportunity for them here because Baron does shred resistances. If they can, they honestly won't find a better shot at a team fight.
No, this is the closest you're going to get is if Wichita Wolves make an overzealous Baron call. And right now, Mabud, he's getting a little overzealous around Baron, or is he? He does take down Thirst, and a teleport needs to be channeled to take just him down. It's a raid boss that Wichita Wolves are missing, but they've got another on the way, and it is not going to be an ability for 8-bit to contest anything further, especially with Fisher Friends going down in this mid lane. They want picks.
Lance is in the middle of nowhere here.
Good Devour. Gets the 80 carry to safety as Grim flashes away. Does manage to survive, and a Justice Punch on the back end is going to buy him even more time. They've run through a line of tanks of 8-bit, though, and once again, this absolute zero, it keeps finding them. How do you play against it? Calcite gets picked. A triple kill goes to Fish Our Friends, and the Baron is as good as dead.
Yeah, that's basically free Baron as we talked about there. They won't be able to necessarily win the game off this push. Thirst is back up here, and there is a possibility Thirst could go for the hero play. It's technically equal levels, but look at the vision just lighting up the approach to Baron there. I don't think Thirst can even run this gauntlet here.
No, he knows it as well as all of us do. What I want to know, RMC, I want to know who were the favorites coming in today.
I think the favorites were 8-bit. They were the ones to take the current finalists here, Red Hawks, to the full game. And they were saying that, they wanted their revenge, especially because their game 5 was off connection issues. If not, maybe they'd be the ones sitting there. But honestly, watching this game 1 here, that's not how this is looking at all.
Yeah, this looks like Wichita Wolves are much more angry, much more decisively playing to try and make their way to that final spot. They have the 10,000 gold lead. They have the ability to end the game. And it's off a comp that I looked at and went, this is defensive. They play it like there is no tomorrow. Making that push happen in the mid lane. They got the 1-4 of Doom, and Thirsty needs to run. Ascena tanks that up for him. Fish Our Friends, he isn't done yet. Starts off the engage. We'll see whether they make one of it. Absolute Zero channeled with no hero's entrance, with no taunt. It still chunks out Calcite, and those two things have never been more synonymous. Thirst follows it up. Daze gets the Devour to save his jungler, and this 4-man takes on the 5 of 8-bit, takes down the inhibitor, and now we're gonna try and pile in. We take one down. Grim is gone. Is it enough? The tanks are fighting back, and even still, after the pick, 8-bit, they're the ones getting chomped on. Fisher Friends almost gets finished off there in the backline. Cleanse has to book it, but 8-bit, they can't find their way in at the end of all of that.
But is just still stripping away turrets top side here. Now, Daze has to be careful.
I think you've overstayed at this point.
Yeah.
I think that it's my academic opinion that Wichita Wolves are playing with their food a little bit too much. Snow, the master of ineffectual stopwatches, is going to fall, but so has the base of 8-bit.
Now 2 lanes wide open here. And yeah, I want to point out the MVP, they did manage to escort their MVP out. Fish, our friends, has yet to die still, despite being the one to kick all that action off, walking in and solo absolute zeroing multiple members of 8-bit. He gets out and gets a free drag out of it. This is disgusting.
I smell something, RMC8. I think I smell a Nunu ban on the horizon. I think that's what that is. I feel it in my bones somewhere that Fish Our Friends is not going to be allowed on this pick again, because I certainly could not stand to see it as 8-bit.
You know what? 8-bit won't be the first team to do it. Like when Fisher Friends was on their main roster, I believe in the Upsurge minor leagues, it was a regular ban they drew against it here. It's not that there aren't any counters, but you have to play very respectfully. And unfortunately, 8-bit didn't really pay respects. The warding wasn't there the entire game, and now before Fisher Friends had to be careful how he engaged. Now he doesn't. He can just run in the front door. Baron's still ticking for the next 3 seconds.
Yeah, at this point, you've got so much leeway. It's a 3-man squad that challenges the entirety of 8-bit, and they lose nothing for it as Daze shows up in that bot lane, makes it 4, and it seems like we're going to get that 5-on-5 team fight as Snow is here as well. He is sitting on a ward. 8-bit know that this is what Wichita Wolves are trying to bait them into, but I think they might still have to go for it.
8-bit doesn't have an option here. They've got supers pushing top and mid. If they don't fight soon, the pressure of the super minions are just gonna cost them this bot side turret.
The question here is, who on earth do you pick? Is there even a good angle here? It seems like Fish Our Friends, he's just going to find one for you. He's going to force you out from under that turret. The snowball comes through, and the turret is going to fall. The super minions are knocking on the Nexus here, and Wichita Wolves, they push forward relentlessly without 8-bit finding an answer here. They're just going to go down. That's a 4-man taunt from Snow. It's a bunch of damage piling in from Wichita Wolves, and a high noon from Grim finishes off for Cena. Retreating back into that fountain now is gonna have to watch the base goes down, because you have just booked yourself a first row seat to watching the masterclass from Wichita Wolves.
Okay, there, dear. We're in the best of 5. This is only game 1, and that felt like almost like a game 5 moment there. Though, like, that was frankly overwhelming from Wichita Wolves, and it all kicked off the back of Fisher Friends. 5-0-20 here, involved in 25 out of the 32 kills. He might not have originally been their starter, but definitely Fisher Friends is somebody that 8-bit has to pay attention to.
And moreover, he's looking like somebody that Wichita Wolves are comfortable playing with, and 8-bit, with at least the champion, are not comfortable playing against. I think that you said it best, even towards the tail end of that game, that the vision setup was not there in a way that actually mattered against Wichita Wolves. Especially that Nunu requires so much more advanced vision, much like a Hecarim, because of how fast he can go, and there was no limit on how many engages this guy was throwing out.
Nope, he just literally brute forced it like at that last turret too, right? Like he just ran right past, and 8-bit just had to cede all the territory. But going into the rest of the series so far, Dia, 8-bit did have some shining points here. I'm looking at the top lane, Denizzle specifically.
Oh my god, yeah.
Because Jackson to Camille is a counter pick. Like Jax is supposed to win that, but Denizzle was the one actually up CS, able to trade back quite well. Granted, anytime they actually stayed and fought, Denizzle died. But that's how the counter pick works. And the fact that Denizzle was never really forced to that position unless there was a gank coming through, whether it be from Thirst or Fisher Friends, speaks volumes of this top lane here. So I think going into game 2, they can kind of focus a little bit more, maybe play through their top and mid, because Cleanse and Kelside were a non-factor in game 1.
And I really do think it requires at least playing through something, because as much as I don't want to be the person that looks at that and goes, well, the jungler didn't do anything, Thirst was a pretty small factor in the early game when compared to Fish Our Friends. When thinking about things like counter ganks, Thirst was ready for them, but is it going to be enough into the Nunu? And the answer was no. Now going into game 2, Thirst has to be the one to adapt the game plan to be able to answer this back, and ideally a Nunu ban is going to hit the table.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. But you know what, Dia? We need to get ready for game two because
Let's do it.
I want to see more of this.
All right, let's throw it to a very short break before we get into that second game. Then we'll see you back with Wichita Wolves versus 8-Bit in the Redemption Finals. Welcome back, folks. We've made it here already where 8-Bit are going up against Wichita Wolves one more time. An important thing to note, though, is that we have swapped sides going into this round. So this time, counter pick will belong to 8-Bit, and I believe that to be more important than one might initially think.
Yeah, especially considering how that kinda top lane went because of the Jack's last pick here, and I wonder if it will affect the ban phase. I was talking a little bit with our producer, Cole, off air earlier about the Nunu here, and personally, I'm not sure that Nunu needs to be banned.
Hmm.
You if you play it a bit more carefully and you pick lanes which have a little bit more safety in it here, I think you can get away with it, but if they do ban it, especially since Wichita Wolves is blue side, I feel like that's really risky that you're leaving some big power picks up.
Yeah, let's see, because right now, 8-Bit, their bans are totally different from what they had last time, so it seems like they're going with a different strategy entirely, in which case, like you say, the Nunu might not be as important of a ban. We'll see, because I did think it was really impactful, and Wichita Wolves, they've taken away the Nocturne, so paying respect at least to the relative strengths that 8-Bit had last time.
Yeah, and was the one with the most kills for side of 8-Bit. So it makes sense you remove that there, especially with the flex pick. Seraphine instead of Morgana, a lot of very supportive picks taken up by 8-Bit. Wow, the insta lock into the Varus here. So that Varus priority is really high, and frankly, with 3 ADC bans, I can kind of see it.
Yeah, and Varus was something that was banned away last time. I believe it was actually, yeah, it was by 8-Bit in that last phase, or in the last ban of the first phase, and 8-Bit now they have the option to answer back, but what do you answer back with right now, RMC?
I don't think taking Varus from 8-Bit particularly messes up their draft here. It's a part for themselves, and I don't know if Cleanse has really been practicing it. So I think they just pick whatever is comfortable for them. Kindred honestly was not what I was expecting. That is not a jungle pick that I think was likely to be contested by Fish, our friends here. So I would have preferred to see, maybe a support pick or jungle meta picks. But you know what? Kindred's fine. And, picking up a support here, I think would serve 8-Bit pretty well.
And it would be something that you'd be able to put a little bit of threat onto Varus with, or at least deny him the ability to pair with something like a Lulu. So I like the pickup, but with just a Kindred Lulu, I'm already getting the sense that 8-Bit want to play a little bit more passive again. It's a Galio, interesting. It's a Galio, by the way.
That's very different from a Lulu.
Yeah.
You can get. But I like it because it is still a flex pick here. We did just see Galio in the mid lane, but it could also go support. And I think it's a good follow-up with the Kindred as well. Skarner coming again. Yeah. And this is why I was a bit concerned about Kindred being first pick. Not only is it kind of low prio for these teams and unlikely to be picked, but also it is counter-pickable. And Skarner, sure, you can Lamb's Respite all you want, but once you get impaled and dragged out, you're vulnerable again, and you will go down.
And the first time that I ever saw Fish Are Friends, I saw him play the Skarner. I don't think changed my mind about the pick. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but he does make it look good. And this time he's going to have a Bard in his pocket as well. Wichita Wolves seem like they want to control that mid game again.
Wichita Wolves just doesn't want Kindred to play the game.
Yeah, also that. Yeah. Which is fair. You're picking a Kindred early on. I imagine they want to play around it.
Yeah. It just shows your hand so early, Dia. And now for 8-Bit here, because you've picked the Galio, I feel like unless you probably don't want to pick your support here, they're looking at maybe your ADC. Because if not, you're gonna get pinched. They picked up. Okay, I'm concerned for 8-Bit right now. They're only
no.
And one ADC pick.
Did they actually do this? Wait, okay. Lulu is Galio. Talon is it actually Talon? I'm not seeing anything in the chat right now. Talon is Lulu. Talon is Lulu.
Zaya. I'm so confused. They're messing. I am so.
Guys, what's happening right now? Fellas, we gotta get it together. I don't know what is happening, but it's not Talon, and that at least brings me some peace of mind. We'll see what happens. As we do need to figure out what was actually banned.
Lulu and Galio is the final word here.
Okay, Lulu and Galio. Okay, Kindred, Lulu, Galio. That's the first phase. Tell me what that says here, because it feels a little all over the place.
8-Bit is likely going to be looking very, very far down the ADC tier. Because I feel like without an ADC by your second phase, when 4 ADCs, 3 have been banned, 1 have been picked, that's going to be a bit rough. You do have the Kindred, I guess, and that's what they're kind of relying on. And in terms of their composition here, dear, this is already a flat out full-on team fight composition. They had no little to no success with their dive composition here. They're now setting up for team fight. They've got a lot of tankiness up front already here. So I feel like they need a little bit more damage. Kindred alone is not going to be enough into a Skarner, into a Bard.
I want to see a Kog'Maw, but that's just like totally trolling of my own volition. But like I feel like it would be so much fun to see. It'd be absolutely terrible, but it is one of those things that, like you say, does bring damage, and we'll see what 8-bit do choose to go with. Vayne, a much more mobile option here, is actually not one that I dislike.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I think Kog'Maw is actually very, very viable with this composition here. There's nobody to dive a back line yet. Varus, Skarner, Bard, I mean, granted, we haven't seen the solo lanes yet, but Vayne kind of in the same vein. You're trading... Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize it.
Stop.
I've thrown myself
Don't
off.
lie to me, RMC. I know you said that you're checking it off in your notebook. I got one off on stream. To analyze the comps.
Okay, wait. Yeah, so Vayne is a lot more short range than the Kog'Maw. So you're trading the range there of the Kog'Maw for mobility coming through from the Vayne here. But it feels like a bit of an early pickup. That is one of the few ADCs I'd like to see very late in the game, because now you're running into Varus and Corki, both of which outrange you, outpoke you. If you get into range, you have to deal with a Skarner. You have to deal with a Vladimir. Sure, you can buy a QSS that deals with the Skarner, but is that going to be enough for the Vladimir sitting on top of you here? And not even a Corki, Victor. So that's even worse for the Vayne now, because that's more close range damage, and I am scared for this Vayne for cleanse.
It's a lot of zoning on this champ as well, with a Vladimir that's trying to kill you, with a Skarner that's likely trying to get on top of you. And with the immense amount of lockdown that this composition brings, let's not forget that everybody except for Vladimir can lock you up in place.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that Vladimir can't exactly lock you down, but he can slow you, and that's going to make things so much easier for everybody. Is that actually a Riven? I mean, the Nizzle does play Riven.
No, yeah, I think it is, and I'm not seeing it denied in the chat. And it's one thing that I do think, as much as it's an odd pick and something that we don't see a lot, goes pretty well with what 8-bit are trying to get themselves. It might not be the most meta composition, but it at least has a very skirmish-heavy identity.
Got a lot of damage here. If 8-bit catches anybody, they're just gonna pop like a soap bubble here. So that is one good thing about them. Their team fight is kind of risky though, because it's not great. You've got a lot of damage, but it's not AoE damage, so you do need to keep the fight moving, keep a running fight here. But I think they're also picking it for the lanes, because Riven does great into the Vladimir here. Galio should be okay into the Victor. And Vayne Lulu into a Bard Varus. Yes, you will get poked out, but if you can actually get onto them in an extended trade, that bot lane has hope.
That's where I think that the game is, like you say, going to revolve around, is that bot lane. And I say that for both compositions, actually, for Wichita Wolves and 8-bit, because as much as you do have a Victor and a Vladimir, they're not going to be the ones in the mid game that really matter. Varus is the one that pushes that agenda, and seeing a Varus that gets ahead is exactly why the champion has risen in priority so much. He should be running the lane phase. He should be able to extend that, and Wichita Wolves' last game alone looked really scary.
Yeah, and there's a lot of squishies on the side of 8-bit. So Grim can just go lethality Varus here very, very comfortably and know that you're going to be able to shred everybody in this fight. I really like the Varus into this composition. I don't think it's intentional because it was the first pick, but Varus also has that counter engage, the Train of Corruptions here. So it's going to be, while 8-bit want to fight, it's going to be so hard for them to get the fight. They simply don't have the range, and I worry for 8-bit because I feel like unless they hit really late game with the Kindred having tons of marks, they just can't, they're going to struggle to get the fight off, to get in range. There's no snowball here for Riven to get in the middle of everybody, for a Gallo to get in and taunt. They're going to rely very heavily on that flash, and that's only up once every 5 minutes.
I feel like the other thing that they can rely on that's also up on a little bit of a longer cooldown are the objectives. Things like Baron and things like Dragon. If 8-bit do get to them first, it is really hard to push into them because they're so ready to absorb you, because they have so much damage. And if 8-bit can control the vision a little bit better than they did last game, if they aren't getting collapsed on by Fisher Friends constantly, I do think that there's a world where mid-game objective control is where they start to pull ahead.
Yeah, definitely a possibility here, and they'd have to go back to that vision. In game one, their vision was a little less than stellar, shall we say, Dia? But
Mm,
let's look at Wichita Wolves a little bit because we've talked a lot about 8-bit. Not
that's
that
true.
we've sung their praises, but Wichita Wolves a much more standard composition here. They've got great team fighting. We touched on the chains of corruption, but the moment you have a Vladimir, it feels like you've already kind of got 80% of a team fight comp because that Hemo Plague is just going to amplify everybody's damage. But you pair that with a Victor, and all of a sudden every static fight is going to be huge. That Lamb's Respite is going to be huge for 8-bit, and not just for Thirstier. It's going to be able to protect everybody else. The Skarner is a bit of a good counter here to drag one person out, but you can only get one. And with how Wichita Wolves composition is running, I think if they can get out of laning phase without losing too much, they'll be well and ahead and in great position to take over the game. And frankly, having seen game one, their laning mechanics look pretty solid across the board.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I feel like we said the same thing even later into the game in game one, and they really showed us what was up then. This time, though, they do have a very different way of executing, and I think that the bot lane might be able to find some advantages, but everywhere else does seem to be a little bit slower on the uptake. We'll watch Fish Our Friends once again because of the tempo that he was able to push in that last game, but on the side of 8-bit, who are you going to watch?
Ooh, that's rough. I'm watching the Dizzle, 100%.
Uh-huh.
You have a Riven, and if you have a Riven, you want to dominate your lane here. So I'm looking at Denizzle to make action happen here. And even if you get ganked by that Skarner, Riven has the potential to just turn it around and find a kill 1v2 and still get out alive.
Okay, well, it could be that Riven becomes the raid boss. It could be that 8-bit do manage to get themselves some leads, throw back at Wichita Wolves. Now would be a good time to do it because Wichita Wolves are up that one game. We'll see if they can send themselves to a second win, put themselves on match point, or whether 8-bit will clap back. There's only one way to find out, though, RMC. That's to throw ourselves into the game where we will see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the Rift, ladies and gents, as Wichita Wolves face off against 8-Bit for the second time tonight. Going off of Game 1, we were calling for 8-Bit to switch things up, to try out a different strat into the very clear game plan that Wichita Wolves had, and they've certainly answered. They first picked Kindred, they got a Riven, they got a Lulu, and Vayne. I don't know what else we could have asked for, RMC.
I don't. I'm still puzzled over. I'm still kind of stunned from this draft and the things we had going here. But one thing to note, Dia, is with Skarner and Kindred on the map, there's lots of mini games to be played here, fighting around marks, fighting around spires potentially here. And we are talking a bit about the fact that 8-Bit needs to somehow bring Wichita Wolves to a fight. Maybe those marks could be it, because with the skilling of a Kindred and a Vayne, Wichita Wolves probably will be looking to try and close out nice and early here.
And they should be able to do so. Thirst, especially if he overextends, could be in big trouble. Snow is on the way over as well, and that's very nearly your Kindred going down. Fisher Friends flashes for this, but Thirst gets out over the wall with the Dance of Arrows. Denizo claims first blood, and 8-Bit, they do get that small injection that could pay off in a big way.
If that was calculated, Dia, that was genius, because the bait coming through from 8-Bit there. Yes, they blow 2 flashes, but first blood on Denizo, that is literally the best thing you could hope for.
And a Riven that can take over her lane, especially into a Vladimir, is a thing to be afraid of. We'll see how it continues to play out here as Wichita Wolves. They do still have the bot lane where they're expected to be strong, and where 8-Bit do desperately need to not fall behind.
And right off the bat here, we can already see the bot lanes are trading pretty heavily, and that's to the advantage of Cleanse and Calcite right now, because the advantage of Varus is the range, is the poke you can put down, and at level 1, you've only got that one tool. Cleanse wisely recognizing as soon as that arrow goes down, we want to aggress, we want to go in.
And there's not a whole lot that it feels like Grim and Daze can do before the first back comes in, because of the immense power of the Protector on Calcite. I mean, Cleanse is just literally not taking damage, and Daze and Grim, they're the ones getting poked out.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens when the junglers start getting there, because Kindred early ganks are not particularly scary. There is, to be fair, good CC to set up for the Kindred ganks, but you just don't have enough damage. It is an ADC, it does need time to scale. Whereas a Skarner gank coming into the lane, that's scary. If you can't get away quick enough, if you do get run down, it will be a problem. And so I kind of want to see this bot side just getting camped by Fisher Friends.
Yeah, that kind of sets up for itself, does Fisher Friends, and we'll see if he does end up taking our advice, moving in towards that bot side, where I dare say Wichita Wolves do sorely need it. Right now he's clearing out a ward that spots his own jungle path that has taken him from that full clear top side to the bot side a little bit late because of the odd start that we got.
Mark as well from Kindred showing up on that top side scuttle. That was fortuitous there for them, and it looks like for the side of Wichita Wolves, they're not even gonna try and contest this top side. Mabud has just been completely shoved in, and besides, Fisher Friends just not in the right side whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's really good wave management here from 8-Bit to get this pushing into their tower just as Fisher Friends is coming towards that bot side. Really good map read from the bot lane. Cleanse and Calcite playing pretty well right now, getting the ward down for Fisher Friends. Calcite is going to get caught, but I don't think it's going to be nearly enough to take him down. Daze throws that stone over the wall, though, and does force the flash.
And that roam back from Calcite, yes, it costs you the flash, but it was necessary, because if not, that would have been a 3 buff start for Fisher Friends, and Thirst would have just have been left hanging for the 1 mark. Thirst has to be careful. Oh, the sweeper spots them.
Yeah, you still can't just walk in here. That's the really scary thing as Thirst, is that you know that Daze is around. You know that he does want to fight. But right now, you're getting a little bit sandwiched. It's a dangerous spot for Wichita Wolves to be in, and they got to back out.
They're just kind of buying time, and all of that happening gave Grim a chance to go back and get that the extra 2 long swords really to come back. And you're saying, Tia, that until Grim gets to get that first buy, that bot side's not going to feel quite as strong. The poke maybe not quite as good with the Protector, but now they did get the cheetah recall, so this bot side should go all the way of Wichita Wolves.
This is where things should turn around. I agree, and especially with the wave position as it is, 8-Bit are gonna suffer here no matter what path they take. The wave can be frozen by Wichita Wolves. Daze, unfortunately, not interrupting that recall, not making things as bad as they could be, still does manage to get a favorable position for his AD carry.
Yeah, I mean, this freeze right here is going to be beautiful. By the time Cleanse and Kelside get back, there's not really much you can do. The wave is still not in a great position. And I'm watching where Fish Our Friends are on the map right now because he's still bot side. Because of the invade earlier there, he didn't actually clear his side of the bot jungle. So he can just clear now and then potentially look to force a gank. If they get a kill, go straight for drag.
My question is, you talk about going for the dragon. Do you think we see any more focus topside? Is that a self-sustaining lane here? Because we haven't heard from them in a while, and my bud is keeping up.
Yeah, I mean, down 10 CS for Vlad at this point is kind of keeping up because that lane is super, super rough. Normally, Vlad kind of out sustains by not having mana, but with the shielding that Riven gets, you pretty much match that and then you just trade back here. So I think for the side of 8-bit, you look up there just because your bot side is not in a good ganking position and your mid lane right now shouldn't really have too many gank opportunities, though Snow was forced to back by the poke. So top and mid is where Thirst should be looking.
We'll see where he does choose to go right now is around that top lane as bot's finally getting pushed in here. Grim actually going quite low. Gets chunked out in a big way by Cleanse and Calcite and misplaying their advantage in this bot lane. Wichita Wolves lose their tempo in a big way.
Yeah, they lost their freeze as well. Should note, Cleanse picked up the Zerker's Greaves really early to be able to dodge out that poke here. If it works, it's going to be huge, but you've got to dodge a lot of those here. And while all that was going on, Thirst actually managed to successfully invade and get the enemy Gromp to get their third, mark of the game here.
And is ahead in farm as well. This is a different story in the early game than 8-bit had last time. At this point, we'd already seen multiple ganks go off from Fish Our Friends. This time, the Skarner is only level 5 right now and has had almost no impact on the map. Wants to try and take a skirmish right now as Thirst is a little bit disadvantaged as long as Skarner is on top of her. Them.
Yeah, Lamb and Wolf.
Yeah.
Technically, it'd be them. I mean, unless the cooldown's down and then it's just Lamb.
Look at the lane positions though. This is actually, as much as I said, disadvantageous for Thirst. The fact is that Cena and Denizzle getting that push means that there's no blue buff for Fisher Friends.
Yeah, and I'm scared right now for Wichita Wolves because we talked about how the fact 8-bit's really good when they've got control of the tempo. Right now, they have 100% control of the tempo. Thirst is able to invade wherever the marks are, and so far, Wichita Wolves have not been able to punish. Normally, you can see the marks spawn too. You know where they are. You want to contest that. But they haven't, and now, what's
Grim has to burn that Chains of Corruption defensively, but he's got Fisher Friends on the way. Still no level 6 on this Skarner. Is so deadly here. Flashes for the stun, and that's it. Cleanse is on the chase. He could get the kill here. Triple silver bolts means death for that Skarner, and now Mabud, he's the one that's got to make it up. The ult is ticking. The lifesteal is not quite there, and Cleanse picks up a double in the bot side as 8-bit outplay and outman.
Vladimir's is just not as impactful at level 7 as the Galio there, and the timing for that hero's entrance. That was a delayed hero's entrance, a point-blank hero's entrance. It wasn't used for the global, strictly for the knock-up there. It pays off 3-0 and the double kill onto Cleanse. That's the Vayne. That's their win condition late game, and it's getting off to a roaring start here.
And it's not just the Vayne either, because you pulled Mabud down, and Denizzle has finally managed to push that advantage into something really, truly tangible. 20 CS up right now is as good as a kill on the Vladimir. You add a plate to that, and it becomes a 2,000 gold advantage for 8-bit.
And yeah, I feel like we're just going and, because there's so many advantages for 8-bit. They picked up Herald as well in the midst of all of that here.
No, Daze, you in trouble, my man. Taunt over the wall, does manage to pick him up, forces the flash, but Daze is still alive for now. Thirst, with that Dance of Arrows, goes for the kill, but he's got the Lamb's Respite to survive this as well. Doesn't end up using it, and just goes down to Snow.
Okay, I think Thirst just did not expect the damage quite enough there to take him out. Did not pop the Lamb's Respite, and that kind of loses them pressure over the Dragon here. Daze is kind of low, but they still do have a numbers advantage. Teleport is available for Denizzle. It's coming in.
This is so rough though. Fish Our Friends still doesn't have the level 6, and he's basically just not here. Snow is going to get taken down, accompanied by Daze, and you're just watching the Skarner walk around like nothing's happened, because basically nothing that he can do.
Yeah, this is like day and night from the last game with the Nunu here, Dia, where Fish Our Friends was just drifting into everybody, running them down the snowball. This time, that Skarner is constantly fleeing for his life here, and I was saying that, okay, Wichita Wolves have a numbers advantage. They can look for the dragon. Now they're at a numbers deficit. They have to walk away from it. And once again, the mark spawned on that scuttle. It's perfect for Thirst. Four marks already at 10 minutes. That is really, really fast.
Yeah, this Kindred is well off the ground. The Riven is well off the ground. The Vayne is well off the ground. And you switch the nameplates here. And I look at this comp and I go, it's Wichita Wolves, because it feels like it's this Uno reverse card that's been served to them off the back of game one, where the game was so convincingly won in the early stages by the Wolves.
And for the Wolves, they're certainly not out of the picture by any means here. They just had a bit of a rough start. Topside, Mabud, I mean, that's a lane you just slowly scale up on. And oh, wow, that was actually a surprising burst of damage coming through here. Wasn't expecting that, but that I was going to say is not a lane you might want to gank. But now, actually, level 6 with the Impale, if you can lock down the Ribbon long enough, you might have enough damage. But for the most part, they just kind of want to sit back in the top lane and play through their bot lane here. You can see Grim is still doing pretty well into Cleanse.
And Grim might be doing well into Cleanse, but they don't have lane priority. They don't have any ability to know where the jungler is. Thirst is getting yet another mark here. Daze just now spots it out, but I don't think it's going to be fast enough. Thirst ends up picking it up, even with, I'll be honest, kind of sketchy smite. It's still a big advantage in that jungle, and it's going to force Snow back as well. 8-bit, they are rolling that snowball in much the same way that Wichita Wolves did last game.
Okay, so Thirst at 5 marks already is almost at that 600 marksman range, which is kind of like considered more long range here. And it's all the benefits of the passives already here. And we're also seeing, because 8-bit have control of the tempo, they're getting to all the objectives first, and they're getting the spires. And if they get spires, that just means Wichita Wolves, Fisher Friends is even less of a champion at that point, because the spires are huge for Skarner. If you don't have the spire, you feel significantly weaker on an already lower level champion.
Yeah, at this point, Skarner is no longer a duelist. He is no longer your initiator. He is just a piece of the team fight that Wichita Wolves are going to desperately try and piece together. Thirst shows up bot lane to try and, I assume, pull off a gank to get some wave pressure for 8-bit. And while he doesn't find a kill, their objective does end up going well. They get that push, and now the bot lane gets to reset. Cleanse, I assume, is on his mythic.
Should have enough. Yep, I think just enough, or just barely under here, but pretty close to Herald being dropped in the middle. Was it about to time out? It must be.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you drop it there for any other reason. Kind of random there, and ooh.
Yeah, especially because you know exactly where Thirst spawned, or Thirst spawned the Herald, so Snow just walks up and I guess gets baited by Herald. Now is going to potentially lose his tower to it, although Daze has roamed up just in time to be able to nullify that particular cooldown. Fisher Friends still looking for a way in here, is being served exactly how irrelevant the Skarner is at this point, and Daze is not doing anything to help him, really. There's nothing that he can do.
They protect the turret, so they still lose 2 plates at the end of it, but that would probably have been first turret down if not for that Tempered Fate. So great play from Daze. And the more I'm looking at Wichita Wolves, the more concerned I am getting for them, because that mid lane, Victor, was picked as a counter pick to the Galio, and it's really not working out right now for them. Yeah, and if Snow is just losing the lane straight up there, they can repeat that gank over and over and over again for Thirst. So Thirst can just mark Snow, come in for the mid lane kill, get another mark, and each time you kill a mark target, it just gets easier the next time.
I don't think that there's any reason why you don't. As I want to know from you, just before we go to a very quick break, if you are Wichita Wolves, where are you going now? What's your answer?
That's a rough question. Yeah, I'm looking at, like, I want to say Fisher Friends has to get the Impale off on a choice target. That is, to me, the highest percentage play at this point, because I'm not sure they win the team fight. They have all the tools for the team fight, but they're just down so much gold. And right now, ooh, this ain't it.
Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult to come back for this. We're going to throw it to a very quick break and then come right back in, as we will be serving you that play very shortly. Welcome back, folks. Just as Thirst invades the jungle, Fish Are Friends is going to channel that suppression and force the Lamb's respite here. Thirst all alone with Fish Are Friends is going to force the flash out of the Skarner, push him out of his own jungle, and 8-Bit, they keep winning just as the game we cut away from suggested.
Yeah, really good patience from Fisher Friends to hold the flash till after the heal gets out alive. But that's my concern here. That's why I was hesitating so long to tell you how can Wichita Wolves get back. Because normally you want the Skarner and Pill. That is your highest percentage play. You pick out a single target and your team bursts them down. But right now, it just feels like 8-Bit's always responding a bit faster. They're always on the front foot. And the backup needed to secure the kill for Wichita Wolves just isn't there.
And this is the 8-Bit that I thought we would see coming into today, which does make me really happy that off of game one, they are showing up on form, ready to push the tempo in the way that we saw in their game against the Red Hawks, in what we're expecting them to challenge with even later on in the tournament. We'll see, though. We'll see. We've got a little ways left to go. For right now, Wichita Wolves surviving. Might not be thriving, but it's enough at the moment.
And Dragon coming up in 30 seconds here. It's the Cloud Drake, not necessarily the biggest solo Drake to pick up, but Wichita Wolves, I kind of want to see them actually set up for this year, because if you've got good vision, you've got poke, their team fight is still very potent. They have a lot of CC here, and because the Lamb's Respite was used topside earlier for that blue buff invade, Thirst doesn't have it, and that's one of the big team fight tools that they have early on.
Yeah, well, I'm looking towards these resets as well to see if Wichita Wolves are able to match the mythic power spikes of 8-Bit, because right now it's just the two, and if you're going into two mythics here, I don't actually think it's that terrible of a fight. It is going to be rough if more get picked up, though, because the economic disadvantage that Wichita find themselves at could just lose them that second dragon.
And I actually really like the mythic that Cinna opted to pick up here. The Shurelia's Reverie, it's been oft talked about, but more on supports a little bit. But for this Galio, I was saying they were lacking engage. That helps to make up for it huge. Dragon goes down, no contest whatsoever, actually, from the side of 8-Bit.
Yeah, and it's a good sneak there. I am impressed at 8-Bit's, or rather Wichita Wolves' ability to sort of pull the bluff there, go for this steal, and it ends up netting them the dragon really nicely there. They know that no vision was placed by Calcite, and they just take that away.
Oh, they cleared out the vision there. That's why I'm a little surprised that 8-Bit just didn't even bother contesting. I think 8-Bit just thought that they wouldn't dare to do it, and now they're invading again. Still no Lamb's Respite.
Thirst is getting a little bit too antsy, though. This is a very pushed up Kindred, and that's a very dead Kindred. Moreover, Fish Are Friends in this front line doesn't have a lot to say into Cleanse, though, who is still very fed, does a lot of damage, and forces the flash out of Grim, who still almost goes down at the end of all that. Cleanse very low right now. He's getting collapsed on by Snow, waiting in the wings right now, but Cena sandwiching him in as well. This needs to work. Snow flashes the wall to escape of all things, and is still throwing in that poke over the wall as Daze flashes the sun, does pick up the kill onto Calcite, gives another one over to Grim, and Wichita Wolves, they salvage the play.
And is Cinna gonna get? Yeah, Cinna should be able to get out here, I think. Okay, just barely. And this spells great things for the side of Wichita Wolves here, because before this, they were just slowly dying, and they kind of didn't look like they had any response to mount. Well, it wasn't necessarily off a great proactive play from them, but the reaction was very good. Seeing Thirst invade, knowing the Lamb's Respite wasn't up, and just tempered fading any backup, isolating Thirst right off the bat. Thirst has been the sort of trigger for a lot of the action so far, and being able to take Thirst out the fight right off the bat, and without a true tank coming through from 8-Bit, having a numbers disadvantage is massive, and maybe they can hope to try for that play again, but it still requires 8-Bit to misstep. 8-Bit, if they don't make any mistakes, it's still very hard for Wichita Wolves to find an entry point.
8-Bit's missteps will be punished a little bit more, though, because the thing that I really got off of that fight was how much gold went into the pockets of Grim, and Grim is the one that can punish out of range. Thirst very low right now. Watch the arrow as it comes back up, because Thirst still needs to respect it, and you see him pushing just way further than a screen away, way more than you would need to against any other champion because of the respect.
Yeah, looking topside, just walks right up there.
Yeah, my bud doesn't have a whole lot of vision right now, and doesn't have a whole lot of HP either. To Nizzle and Cinna, it's a deadly duo, and you can't start to lose respect elsewhere if you're going to start winning on one side of the map.
And that's one way to deal with the Vladimir. Normally, you just go and dodge everything, but the sheer amount of CC that came down onto Mabut there was brutal. Dear, we talked about Vision game 1. We haven't talked too much about it in game 2. We said 8-bit's going to need a lot of it, but ooh, TP down bot side. Never mind. No time for Vision.
Yep, Fish, our friends, does get slowed up. Denizzle also going to get slowed on his way out, but that's half the health of the Skarner with just 3 autos from Cleanse. The Vayne is massively ahead, and they invest so much into getting on top of her that now they've seeded that bot lane turret.
Yeah, and that's outside turret gone as well. They have to see it because the burst coming out from a Silver Bolt's Vayne plus the Kraken Slayer plus a Ribbon, they can just go in, burst somebody down, and Denizzle can probably get out before the shield even really drops. Their turret won't be enough. So this 3-man combo, well, pretty much any 3-man unit right now from 8-bit is horrifying, and it's so hard to guard any turret that's below 25% now. Thirst going to Herald, this is another sketchy situation. If they can find Thirst here, it might be another bit of a throw coming through from 8-bit.
It's kind of spooky because we see these things from Thirst, these small little pieces that suggest that he's kind of trying to play the game on his own, and that is not a super good look. Unfortunately, Rift Herald does end up despawning before Wichita Wolves can pick it up and capitalize on it. But if they keep finding Thirst in these isolated scenarios, the capitalization is going to come, and you are going to find yourself at a big disadvantage as 8-bit.
Before we worry about that, yeah, I'm just looking at the 8 marked Kindred right now.
Oh no.
Yes, Thirst is playing kind of dangerously, but it's been paying off most of the time, and the skilling from 8-bit here continues to be an issue, I fear, for Wichita Wolves. They have the Vladimir. Vladimir did get nerfed, but is still that strong late-game powerhouse. I'm waiting for them to leverage it. The mythic item has come through. Rocket Belt is here from Mabut, and I want to see what they can do with this Vladimir. If it's not enough now, I don't think it'll be enough late game.
Right now, 8-bit want to push their advantage around the red buff, so we might see Mabud pulled down a little bit earlier than usual. He does have that teleport that can be matched by Cena. If Wichita Wolves want to take a fight, 8-bit is about to serve them one that is ready and raring to go. Dragon just spawning is going to be taken down instantly by this composition. There's not a whole lot that Wichita Wolves can say about it, having lost control of their own jungle.
Yeah, it is the Mountain Drake, Dia, and so for the side of Wichita Wolves, giving that over is not too scary. Really only Cinna benefiting from it, and even then, it's kind of questionable how much Cinna benefits, because it is a percentage magic resistance and armor, and Cinna isn't going to be building a ton of those. It's more just health for the Galio tank for the most part. So Wichita Wolves, they can afford to give that up. They just need to make sure they don't give over.
Cleanse? Okay. That was actually really spooky, and Grim, he can still look for this. Remember, that arrow does hurt a lot, but I'm glad to see that the ADCs, they can still contest each other. Fish Our Friends goes for the flash, though. He's going to force this fight again, and that was a little bit over-ambitious, I'll be honest.
I mean, I think it's a fine trade. They burnt the TP out of Cinna here, and Thirst, no lamp just with this time, has to be careful. The arrows. They're all low. They should be able to get a shove.
Yeah, that looked like a bad spot for Wichita Wolves, but you're right, they get this global advantage there. They get the flashes, they get the teleports, and they actually come out ahead in a situation where they had no right to.
I'd like to have seen them shove that there, but yes, they win that here, and you can see that the lethality, because there's not a lot of armor coming through from 8-bit, they're all kind of squishy. The Varus drop-off for lethality hasn't occurred and probably won't be occurring anytime soon. The only person really building resistances, Denizzle, and Denizzle's focused on magic resist because he has to lane into the Vladimir for the most part here. So if Wichita Wolves can get a single good chain of corruptions to initiate a fight, their massive AoE damage, the sheer amount of burst they can put out here, could definitely win them the game at any point.
Yeah, well, let's keep our eyes on Grim, though, as he is the thing holding the team together, as he's the one that's really providing that upfront burst right now. Snow's got a lot of it as well, and we'll need to watch how the Victor is scaling up, but it really does seem like still, as much as there are the tools in which to Wolves to address what 8-bit have, it's still a game of time for the Wolves.
But yes,
do you agree? I mean, yeah, tell me.
Yeah, I'm like I said before, the Kindred and the Vayne. Yes, it's a game of time, but I don't think time's working in their favor right now. I think it's getting scarier and scarier. Now, Baron is actually marked up by Kindred. That's a double incentive for 8-bit to start this up. We're seeing Cinna rotate up without the teleport, and Grim
That is a Chains of Corruption that just
Oh,
barely saved his
wow.
life. Cleanse does flash for the kill, though. Finishes off the most important member of the Wichita Wolves. But now Snow's arrived, and he's got damage of his own to pump in. That Temper Fate going wide stuffs the team fight for Wichita Wolves, and they're the ones that have to back off now. Fortunately, that tower keeps them safe and actually forces 8-Bit into a retreat. But it is not a good spot to be in when your Varus is picked off, when so much of your damage is gone. Wichita Wolves, they're making the most of it.
Why are they? This is still a numbers advantage. Lamb's respite is up. Why?
And Nizzle engages and gets that 3-man stun. The knockup follows up, and I find myself asking the same question as I'm sure 8-Bit are. In a situation where we had the tools, why on earth are you looking at us in the eye?
And with that, this should be Baron here. You have double Kraken Slayer for the side of 8-Bit. Grim has only just recently. They're looking for more. That's just greedy, mate. Focus the objectives. Now that's buying time for Grim. Wichita Wolves will happily bait you all day to run those timers down.
Yeah, Grim's back up. I'm checking the pool on the Vladimir as well. Just 7 seconds out from that being up. Fish, our friends, is getting caught out even before that. And they keep giving over these numbers advantages. 8-Bit, they might be getting greedy, but they're getting paid.
That's true. They're getting greedy, but so is Wichita Wolves, and greed is not always good, Dia. It's certainly not paying off here, and they finally rotate over, and look how quickly Baron is just
my
absolutely
lord.
getting credit here.
It's just gone. Cena is over the side here as well, zoning out everyone with the potential of that taunt. And Baron going so low here is going to be secured. Mabud goes in to try and steal it, but Thirst ends up picking it up. Still the Lamb's respite buys time, and Mabud ends up picking up a kill, flashing out over the wall, looking for more. Cena claps him back, and Cleanse is unleashed in the team fight with everything burned. There is no one that can challenge the Vayne. A triple kill goes to the Vayne, and now 8-Bit, they have not only Baron, but a big buff Demon Hunter.
Yeah, I think time's run out. Oh, as the game pauses here. Time's kind of run out for Wichita Wolves here. The skilling comp, I wanted to see a big team fight with the Vladimir, because that's what I've been waiting for, and we finally saw it. It did nothing. And Vladimir is your champion that is skilling. Your Varus is a lethality. Varus is not going to be skilling much more than this. Your Victor, likewise, yes, the damage goes up, but not as quickly as the Kindred, as the Vayne. And you can already see they caught everybody in the pit. That was maximal damage pretty much. Yes, the Chaos Storm kind of came in a little bit early, but they don't get it. And now with Baron buff, they don't even have the range issue because Kindred's range is there. So they can take those turrets. It's looking like a kind of a closeout point for game 2.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate position to be in off of a team that we did think was doing really well in the first game. Now they've sort of been served the other side of this, so we'll see how they choose to respond during this game, how much they can continue to respond. But you're right, it does feel like 8-Bit now, they're really in that final driver's seat. We'll see what their end of game plan looks like after we take a very short break to make sure we're synced up out of the pause. We'll see you soon. All right, folks, we have made it back. Let's see what 8-Bit have for us here, because they've got the Baron, they've got almost a 10,000 gold advantage, and they should have the end of the game in their sights. It just takes a little bit of crossing the I's, dotting the T's.
Yep, Dragon's coming up as well, and honestly, they can kind of just take that if they want for fun here. Wouldn't even have to send too many people. And mid lane, all those turrets, that's standing gold. Any turret outside the base right now of Wichita Wolves is standing gold for 8-Bit.
And it should certainly be theirs once they, of course, get themselves onto Soul Point, which seems to be the priority right now. And Wichita Wolves, they're going to take the opportunity to farm up to get themselves a little bit more gold on Mabud, the Vladimir that does need to carry the team fights. It's going to be a tall order, but it's really Snow and Mabud that we're looking at, and those two are the ones that get to collect the gold in the interim. You'll take it as little as it is.
Yeah, and Dia. Cinna bought the Magi Soul Stealer off the
Oh my god. Oh my god. Come on, man. You can't do this to him.
I mean, he's 2-0-8 right now. I think you deserve it. If the Nizzle were to buy the Magi Soul Stealer, I don't think I'd really bat an eyelid at this point.
That would be something else. That would be the ultimate disrespect. As it is, I actually really like the way that Denizel's been building this game. He went for
Mhm.
that early executioners, the GA on top of everything here. He's got a lot of survivability, and as much as he was running a little bit of a garage sale before, this has been a Denizel that I did not expect, not just in this game, but in game one as well.
It's definitely not what we've seen from 8-Bit, though. The solo queue profile kind of tells us that Nizzle likes to play this way in solo queue. So I guess they've just finally unleashed the Nizzle to be able to match
There
Mabud.
we go.
And you got to say, it works. It does work. Like Mabud, who's been the rock solid carry for Wichita Wolves throughout most of their playoffs here alongside Grim, has been struggling to find traction in this game too.
And we'll see how much of that they can correct now, as the team fights are really where he's going to shine. With 2 items complete, though, I find myself asking, will it be enough? And I also find myself answering, oddly enough, probably not. As he's getting pushed in the top lane, calling for, or sorry, as Snow is getting pushed in the
Oh,
top lane, calling for help. He is going to receive it, and Denizel's going to fall low, end up going down here. Has that GA, but all of this attention is still
oh
losing you
my
the
goodness.
overall map, and Denizel actually ends up buying even more time, absorbing the ultimate from Daze as well. I mean, it looks good that you pick him up, but man, what a cost.
And the tempered fate to pick him up. I almost feel at that point it's not worth it. You lost your
Mhm.
inhib and the bot side here because you kind of bought time for the side of 8-bit by using that tempered fate here, and great use of the Baron. Now the base is cracked open here. It's going to be that much harder for 8-bit to defend. Baron coming up in 2.5 minutes. Mountain in pretty much the same time. I'd like to see 8-bit just go again with that 1-4 split push. Top lane turret is so low, and because it's an opposite side of the map, what Wichita Wolves have to commit to a side, and no one person can handle the Nizzle.
It's going to be a tall order there to see who's going to answer the Riven, or who's going to be stuck with that. As you say, there's not really a whole lot of 1v1 potential from anyone, and you certainly do need everybody else to be grouped up, ready to answer back. A bit of slowed down a little bit, though, as the Baron buff has run out and might be waiting for the second one, giving Wichita Wolves a bit of time to group up and get their chicks in a line.
And for the side of Wichita Wolves here, you've got about that minute and a half to just farm up these waves as much as you possibly can. And after about a minute, they need to start getting some vision down. If not, they can't even look at contesting that Baron. And we already saw what the first one did. The second one is just going to end the game here for them.
And there's not really a whole lot that they can do here. You can see 8-Bit already in the jungle of Wichita Wolves before any rotations can come in. They're playing the minion wave pushing game really well here. They burn the Chaos Storm from Snow just to get rid of the threat on their base, but the threats don't stop there. Denizel's pushing in the bot side, and he's pulling more and more members.
If they had a proper tank on the side of 8-bit here, they could just force this top lane turret and they'd have enough damage to shred it immediately. As it is, they're waiting for minion waves, and because they're not completely synced up right, they've been able to deny them so far. But on this push, surely there's no more Chaos Storm to clear.
Yeah, who's not completely synced up? Is it the team that just tried to engage in the mid lane without their mid laner, lost their mid laner, now is losing the fight here? Immediately afterwards, Cleanse still alive with that Lamb's Respite. His styling under the tower finally gets picked up by Mabud, but I feel like I've said this once before, and I'll say it again. It is a little too little, a little too late, and Denizel, he is chasing him for the ace. 8-Bit, they clap back in the second game and take themselves the win.
That's a wrap, Dian. As dominant as game one was, it was the complete opposite direction, equally dominant for 8-bit here in game two. And if this just makes me more excited for game three, Dia, because now we're back to a regular best of three, a game a piece here, and very different styles coming through. I honestly wasn't sold on 8-bit's comp initially, but you can't argue with the results here. It was devastating.
No, I mean, you take the nameplates off, and I don't even know what to tell you, because game one is what I thought we were going to get from 8-Bit. Game two, it's exactly what we expected, and Wichita Wolves seem like they've sort of lost their way. Now it is, though, them that have to adapt, and I am really excited to see how a composition and a team that could serve up such a convincing first game can use what they already know about each other, what they already know about 8-Bit, to serve us an even more interesting game three.
And what interests me about this game to the most here is two things. One, the counter pick ribbon from 8-bit. The counter picks
Mhm.
have been absolutely devastating from both of these teams, the Jackson game one, the Riven in game two, they're playing around their top side for both of these teams. So I'm curious to see in game three who's going to pick red side and who's going to get the counter pick. And the second thing was Nunu was not actually banned here in this
Mhm.
game too. So Fish Our Friends opted to go with the Skarner as a counter pick to the Kindred. I liked it on paper. Fortunately, it didn't pan out. But if you know what they decide it didn't work out, they can always just go back to the Nunu.
Yeah, let's see if they do. Let's say if they go back to what's tried and true, and if Apid have a response to that, because we are getting into the thick of things. Like you say, it is a best of three. You only need 2 wins to secure a victory, and momentum is everything. So let's take a very short break before we get into the third game of Wichita Wolves versus 8-Bit. Welcome back, folks. We are making it to the third game of Wichita Wolves versus 8-Bit here. Like we mentioned before, we've now made it to a point where whoever wants to take this series into the finals just has to win 2 games from this point on. And after the first 2, I don't know who it's going to be. We've seen 2 completely different faces of both Wichita Wolves and 8-Bit.
Kind of feels like whichever team drafts for the early game has not really been able to convert it here. In game one, it was the side of 8-Bit with that really strong mid lane dive comp, which kind of got run over early. And then in game two, Wichita Wolves, they had the Varus, they had the Skarner, the Bard, the Victor, all early to mid game champs. And they kind of struggled against the skilling Kindred and Vayne here.
Well, we are flying through the bans too. We've stopped on this last one as 8-Bit are debating what they want to take away, but already Wichita Wolves, they've surely adapted to what they saw last time, taking away both the Lulu and the Gallia.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I don't know what 8-Bit's waiting for. It has to be the center ban here. There's no reason to ban it, but because of the changeup, because Jinx was left open here, the top 3 ADCs, Tristana, Jinx, Senna, 2 of them off the table. Jinx first pick is hard to match.
Yeah, this is a very, very strong first pick, although 8-Bit do have access to the Varus, and as I say it, they pick that up along with the Karma. It's already a strong lane to challenge the Jinx.
Again, that Karma, said it in game one, is a flex here between top and support. Denizzle played it mostly before, but in this series itself, it was Kelsight taking to the bot side, and if you do get the Varus Karma bot lane, there's very, very heavy pull.
And looks like we're getting a return to what's tried and true as well. I like this from Wichita Wolves. Fish, our friends, looked so good on the Nunu here. And honestly, I'm just praying that we can see such a good performance again, because 8-Bit, if they play on the level that they did in the second game, and we see Wichita Wolves performing on the level they did in the first game, that is a game that I want to watch. You lock in an Orianna alongside those crazy absolute zeros, and you got yourself a team fight.
Yeah, for the side of 8-Bit right now, just looking at what you already see, you don't want to fight a front to back here. That would be very, very difficult for you. So I'd like to see a bit more skirmish heavy, more mobile champions. And frankly, Kindred fits the bill. I think the Kindred first pick last time actually for them was, or Rid 1 pick for them was kind of the counter to the Nunu here. The fact that you can always Lamb's Respite when that absolute zero comes down.
Yeah, this is going to be a really useful pick for the team fight as a whole, although it doesn't give them a whole lot of tankiness in a substantial way. It's sort of artificial tankiness that comes with the Kindred ultimate, and it requires everybody to be piled on top of each other. In a situation where Wichita Wolves are engaging, sure, that's likely to happen, but if 8-Bit want to take a proactive team fight, they don't have the tools to do that yet, and that's what I want to see in the second phase.
Okay, the ribbon ban coming out onto Denizzle there. You know what? I was going to say, I think it's well deserved here, but we have to keep in mind, Denizzle does have other top lane sort of dive lane champions like the Irelia, like the Camille that we've already seen come through. And again, they do have last pick here, so they're saving it for mid lane. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna think that they, like you say, or like you alluded to with your that they were gonna save it for the top lane here, but I like securing yourself a nice, what should be winning top lane. We'll see now if Wichita Wolves can play that Irelia, because it can be a really good matchup. Something like that, or even the Camille, would go very well into Denizzle's Gnar.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what Maputta actually plays here. Does not actually, unfortunately, play the Irelia, but you know what? Gangplank, at least in pro play, has a winning record against the Gnar here. So I like it. You've got the range to poke, and you've got some skilling as well. We already kind of touched on it, but I think skilling right now seems to be the way to go. Late game compositions have been able to somehow find their leads early in the series.
And there are a lot of circles here too. When you can pile on top with a Gangplank Nunu and a Blitzcrank to find the picks on all the squishies of 8-Bit, this is a really, really nice comp from Wichita Wolves to tear apart at a game plan.
I think 8-Bit might want to just flex that Karma mid here and pick a tank support, because that Karma can be flex mid, and I'm just looking at what you've got in terms of trying to deal with that Blitzcrank right now. Yes, Mega Gnar is not somebody you want to hook, but as soon as Mega Gnar goes down, Daze is gonna just, well, have their choice of what they want to pick. They pick a Victor. That Blitzcrank right now is looking at the scariest thing in this draft.
Oh yeah, this is a very, very happy Wichita Wolves, just from a purely draft position. We'll see how 8-Bit actually play this game, because it could be just the reality of them constantly running into Wichita Wolves and Days not being able to find hooks, but something tells me that Wichita are going to get at least one or two real nice picks.
Yeah, and again, right? Like there's just so many nice targets to pick up as well. It's kind of good for Gangplank later as well as you skill up, because the damage you put out on all these squishy members, if you land a barrel on multiple members, that fight is going to be so hard to initiate. So Wichita Wolves composition, I really like what we see. We've got the tankiness from the Nunu. You've got that early game just gank strength onto multiple immobile lanes. Victor, Varus, Karma, none of them are great at getting away from the Nunu gang. Sure, maybe Karma can speed up and they can get away to safety, but that mid lane is going to be very, very vulnerable. And topside as well as the Nar. Yes, you can hop your way out of there, but depending on how far up, if you push into that gangplank early, which often happens with that Nar, they're going to be vulnerable for ganks as well.
Yeah, this is not a safe time for anyone, and I've got to imagine that if 8-Bit are letting through something like a Nunu here and picking themselves a composition like this, they are ready to play the vision game. They have the confidence from the first game to set things up to catch Nunu on rotation before he even hits their lane, because that's what it's going to take.
And if we look at 8-Bit's composition here, they actually have really strong team fighting when they engage on their terms. Actually, no, either way, they've got pretty good team fight. If you engage into them, we talked about the Tempered Fate, not Tempered Fate, the Lamb's Respite for the Kindred coming through. And then if your Nar has that Rage Bar, it buys you that bit more time to charge that up. Once you get the Mega Nar with the Chaos Storm, Change of Corruption, we talked a bit about that last game for Wichita Wolves, that combo is online. So 8-Bit has pretty good team fight. They've got pretty good poke and wave clear as well. Varus Karma is not just good in lane, it's good outside lane as well. For poking, just have to make sure you don't get hooked. So if they get themselves off to a good start in their lanes, it's good to go. They have winning lanes top. They have a winning lane mid, kind of. I mean, nothing really beats Orianna necessarily, but you do get prio with the shove. And bot side, again, that condition keeps popping up. If you can dodge the blitz hooks.
Yeah, then you should win the lane, right? And that's where 8-Bit were expected to be strong coming into this, was in their lanes, in the early stages of the game, getting these leads, pushing them, and they do have the tools to do it, and it requires just out execution of Wichita Wolves. At this point in the series, I as a player wouldn't be comfortable taking that bet, but 8-Bit very clearly are, and the difference between game 1 8-Bit and game 3 8-Bit is about to be tested in a really big way.
Oh yeah, and they did have the counter pick. In game 2, we saw the counter pick going to the top side for Denizel, and I thought that was really masterfully played. Now the question is, can Sinna do the same on the Victor? If you save that last pick for something like a Victor, you better win it, because Victor's one of those things you can afford to blind pick. So if you're saving something that could be a blind pick for the last pick, it has to have a huge impact, whether it wins your lane outright or whether it has some sort of key component to your strategy.
Well, let's go ahead and throw it to, there we go. Just as we arrive in camps, I was going to say, let's go ahead and cut it to a very quick break. So at least we've cut just in time for us to wink at the camera as we say goodbye, and we'll catch you on the Rift. Ready, RMC? 1, 2, 3, wink. Welcome back to the Rift, ladies and gents, people of all shapes and sizes. Wichita Wolves versus 8-Bit. The series continues right here, right now, with what looks like it's going to be a little bit of a spicy level 1. You look towards the northern end of the Rift, and everybody's stacked up for the Wichita Wolves. Denizzle, he is none the wiser.
This is so good. They baited.
Okay, Denizzle, he sees it now. He's not in hook range, though. It's just going to be that first ward that goes down, and it's an advantage, but it isn't what you wanted as Wichita.
10 gold, 10 gold. And I like the way they set it up too. They send Fish Our Friends mid. So it looks kind of like they're just, doing the standard 5-man defense there. That's usually what you see, jungle in the mid lane, just covering that particular entrance there. And they send everybody else grouped up. And the Dizzle didn't know till you saw Daze. Unfortunately, Daze did not just throw out the blind hook, kind of waited for it. So they get out safe, they get out fine. But this is a threat that's going to keep happening all game long, dear.
Yeah, this Blitzcrank is not slowing down anytime soon. What will be slowed a little bit by that invade is Fish Our Friends. Because the cost of the invade there is that 8-Bit do get vision on the red buff for Wichita Wolves. They have an idea of where this Nunu is starting and where he's going.
And unlike game 1 here, Fish Our Friends can really gank any lane he wants. There's kill pressure in every single lane. Yes, GP doesn't do great into Nara early, but the damage is there. Bot side, I mean, that Blitzcrank with a Nunu should be a guaranteed kill. And even mid lane with that Orianna, it's still a lot of damage.
Okay, wait a minute. Daze already is forced to flash. Burns his own ignite, but that Blitzcrank, it do be looking a little clean, though.
Oh my goodness. And Kelside, yeah, I was going to say, might want to actually base before too long here, because you can just brute force this with a Nunu snowball. If you don't base, if you're under half health, if that snowball lands, it's a guaranteed kill.
And you know as 8-Bit as well that Wichita Wolves' jungler, Fish Our Friends, is incoming to that bot side. Word expired on the red buff right now, and Thirst is top lane. You know there's no vertical jungling here. You've got to sniff out that incoming gank is a possibility. I'd be surprised if we don't see a reset.
Right now, Kelside's above the 50% mark right now, so if they don't reset, understandable. And I'm just waiting for another hook from Daze. The moment another hook lands, it's just so impactful. And that's the annoying thing about Blitzcrank in solo queue more than, but it's true in comp play as well, is that it feels like Blitzcrank can miss 90% of the hooks, but the one that they land is the one that matters. That's how it feels like in solo queue. And here in this game, they have to be careful. Again, any hook is equivalent to a kill.
Ooh. Very nicely spotted there by Calcite, right on the edge of the Oracle's lens. Barely evades his death by walking into the snappers, but it's a scary time to be a squishy support. And even now that you know that Fish Our Friends can be around that bot side, even though he's not, Wichita Wolves can play with that pressure until their Nunu gets spotted.
I've just got a question once again, the marks, right? Like last game, Thirst was completely uncontested for every single mark. Now, Mark spawned bot side, and it looks like Fish Our Friends opted to go top side. I'm not sure why that call was made. You have the Blitzcrank. You're the one with the kill threat in the bot side. If you send Nunu down, you win that 3v3. But as it stands, first mark to Thirst, and first snowball into mid.
Never question Fish Our Friends. The guy knows what he's doing here. Cena already in a lot of trouble in this mid lane. Gets chomped down on first blood going over to Orianna. And you trade a mark for a kill in that mid lane. It makes Fish Our Friends a happy time. And Wichita Wolves, they once again are off to the races.
Oh, and there's a vision down here. Kelside and Cleanse. Look how far they have to run from the wave.
And I think that snowball still hits them too, just like catching Calcite on the side there. It's almost impossible to evade this. I'm still salty about the ARAM game we played earlier, RMC.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You're still tilted from that AV, man, because it is dodgeable. It does play out well, but forget about lane freezes, man. It doesn't even matter about lane freezes when you've got that Nunu. It's just simply anytime you step up past that river, you need such a deep ward. That one outside the Dragon Pit is roughly where you always need the ward to be in. Now, second mark has spawned for Thirst. It's once again topside, and unfortunately, Fish Our Friends is just not in the area.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of lane priority here for Wichita Wolves. As much as we saw the Gangplank counterpick into Gnar, that hasn't really worked out. The Orianna into Victor is getting pushed in, so it translates into Thirst having the run of the jungle. And Fish Our Friends, as much as I applaud the early game gank into the mid lane, it's exactly what he needed to do. It's gank or die.
Yeah, and you're kind of trading early game strength for late game strength here. The instant response coming through from Fisher Friends because they did see the rotation out. Snow did spot Sinner hitting topside. They know the mark's gone. Rotate straight for Dragon right away there. It is a good buff to have. That damage is definitely worth more than that early mark here, but I would like to start seeing some contests coming out for the third and definitely trying to delay that fourth mark for Thirst as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, because you just don't want to be dealing with that range in a team fight. The reality is that most of the people on Wichita Wolves are pretty short range, including that Gangplank that can get the chains of barrels. So if this Kindred does take off, there aren't a whole lot of compositionally inherent answers here. Days still looking for these hooks in the bot side, hasn't been able to take off there either. And until we do hit that mid game, it's going to be pretty stagnant.
Yeah, it certainly feels like it. And so my eyes are now looking, as they have been for most of the game, at the junglers here. Not just because of the cool drifts that are coming through from Fisher Friends, but more for the pathing in terms of where are they going. Because I feel like if they don't show up in a lane, the odds of action happening are fairly low.
Yeah, right now the game does really revolve around that Nuno, around the source of engage, and 8-Bit don't have a whole lot of their own, especially with just level 4 on Cleanse, but that means there's no way of stopping this Nuno either. He splashes for the knockup, and another one is incoming. Calcite splash still isn't off cooldown here. He gets ignited, he does go down, but it's a 1-for-1 as Denizel does flash in for this knockup here. Grim is gonna go down to the last auto, and 8-Bit, they respond to the play from Wichita Wolves in a big way, picking up Fisher Friends onto the tower, getting a kill onto Cleanse, onto every single member that participated.
Buying so much time for Thirst as well allows Thirst to hit 6 first. No absolute 0 for Fisher Friends. Not that it probably would have mattered, but the Lamb's respite was huge. That was a clean counter there. Sure, Calcite goes down, but you take that 3-4-0, and now Mabud, actually mid lane.
Yeah, that's the problem. Cinna almost falls. The corrupting pot barely saving his life, and Snow, if he had found that kill, it would have been a very different story. As it is still a losing one for Wichita Wolves. As they make the play, they lose the tempo.
If they can force Sinna to back here, miss the wave. Nope, they can't. Snow's backing. As I say, if they can do that, maybe they can kind of match a little bit. Because topside, Mabud just got some free farm here on that top turret. 2 plates as well. So if you look at the gold here, he's actually ahead right now. If you look at the experience, Mabud is also ahead. And that Gangplank certainly can be a late game win con. The sheer amount of poke, the barrels, the chained barrels put down, as well as the cross map strength of that cannon barrage can more than make up for a couple of kills.
This is everything I dreamed of, though, when we were getting into this. It is Game 2 8-Bit versus Game 1 Wichita Wolves. The plays are being made, and they're being answered on the other side. Balls are being thrown and caught, and I do feel like as much as one might look at this and go, oh, it's even, the game just isn't that tense right now. The tension is the highest that we've seen it all series, and whoo, even with the contest there, Fisher Friends pushes it even further, tries to deny the Rift Herald, but Nizzle should be able to walk in and pick it up. As Fisher Friends has overextended ever so slightly. We do see the cannon barrage in here, crowding around the members of 8-Bit. They finished off 1 kill, but they can't finish off a second. Mabud flushes up the wall greedily and can't get Denizzle at the end. Burns the orange, but still goes down. The flush from Snow saves it with a double kill. But like I said, on a knife's edge, it's not only the game, but the play.
Dazzled by the sheer amount of flashes that went off there, Dia. 3 flashes down here, and most of it around that top side. And I want to see the junglers look top right away here.
Gaze is going in this bot lane, though. They're looking here. Teleport channeled in as well. Cleanse is going to go down. The answer comes back, but now Calcite is the one served up on a silver platter. And unfortunately, Mabud teleported for nothing, but Grim is very happy.
Goes on to Grim, and Mabud's early advantage he got off the teleport from Denizzle has been largely negated at this point. Denizzle will be able to get back to lane, and you're not taking that bot lane turret down. There's no herald for you, unfortunately. Are they just going to lane swap at this point, actually?
I think you have to here, because having Mabud go all the way back to top lane, I mean, look at that wave that Denizzle is collecting right now. It's just not going to be fun at all. The problem is that by lane swapping so early on, if they do choose to, that mountain drake is likely going to go down to 8-Bit.
Granted, Mabud doesn't have the cannon barrage, can't make the cross map play. He got off the back in the bush. Okay, this is what I was expecting.
Weird.
And they did not lane swap there. Mabud just shoved it, and it's also because Denizzle was looking to potentially freeze that top lane there, so they know that they don't have to rush up. There's no threat on that turret, and they get their bot lane back cleanse.
In a tough spot right now, gonna get knocked up, gonna get hooked in. The damage isn't here, or so I thought, but I forgot that Fish Are Friends, it's an absolute monster at this point. He burns him down with the smite of all things. Guys, it's the Redemption Finals. We don't need to BM here, I thought.
I think try to actually save it for Grim, but doesn't manage to get it. No, oh, there's no blast going here. They're kind of stuck.
See, you should have saved it for Calcite. That's what should have happened. As is tradition, that absolute zero is going to be enough, and Grim's shown up to throw in the damage over the wall as well. Lamb's Respite saves at Daze as much as it saves Cena and Thirst, but Grim almost finishes off that kill with the Super Mega Death Rock, and he really wants it, but you cannot go in under that tower.
Both sides. Both these teams are playing around that Lamb's Respite so well, and props to the side of Wichita Wolves, because it almost feels like they're negating this Kindred pick, or at least the ultimate portion of that, by always holding their flash, being so patient. Last game was Fisher Friends. This game, it's Daze, and they get themselves a dragon without either jungler.
It's so crazy, actually. The Thirst was still technically alive, but the dragon falls, and it's due to how convincingly Wichita Wolves won that fight. It seems like, for the moment at least, as long as you're getting Fish Are Friends being proactive, if he's not being challenged, you're more than likely going to walk away with the win, and it's what brings my eyes so often to this player on the minimap.
Are they going to contest this objective here? Fisher Friends walking up. It's actually a level down from Thirst, but the rotations, your teammates are there faster.
Are they going to contest, and is Fish Are Friends there? Those are the two things that you always need to ask yourself. If yes, they're definitely contesting, because I have yet to see this Nunu back away from a fight. With Daze in the mid lane as well, there's always the potential for something like a hook to catch somebody off guard, and it lets Wichita Wolves have all this free priority. All the vision that was just placed by 8-Bit is wiped off.
Yeah, it's been a while now, 12.5 minutes. No turret has gone down just yet here, but I think it's good to take stock because we're seeing a lot of roaming right now, and the supports, the junglers, they're all over the place. No lane is safe. The mythics have not yet come through, but Mabud managed to maintain the CS lead, the slight experience lead in the bot side. We're seeing another differential where Grim is winning out pretty substantially on this, once again, lethality poke Varus here. We're seeing the early lethality, so not that on-hill build just yet. And mid lane, Snow has completely negated that supposed counter pick of Victor, at least in the laning phase right now, is up CS and is up 3 kills to boot.
Now, it seems like what you're telling me right now is that Wichita Wolves, they're the ones in control of the game. Would I be right to read that?
Yes, you would. And I think they're gonna continue maintaining this control here.
It's actually crazy the amount of aggression that we're seeing from not just Fish Are Friends, who we expect it from off of game 1, but Daze as well, and the Blitzcrank is looking really practiced, is looking really good, being able to find all these unexpected angles. And 8-Bit are playing around it, but like we mentioned before, you only need to mess up once around an objective, around a late game fight, for it to bite you and bite you hard.
I'm gonna be honest, yeah. As much as like I clench when I see Daze making play. Oh, whoa, Daze, where are you going, buddy?
Yeah, Daze is clenching right now. Needs to get the heck out, but doesn't have the health bar to do it. He goes down off of too much confidence in his own jungle. 8-Bit, they are gonna get not just his life, but likely this turret as well.
Oh, they knew Calcite was there because he walked in vision range, but they didn't see Thirst, and that was where everything backfired. I was gonna say I clench when Daze is making those plays, not just because of the hooks, but also because Daze is going real deep with no backup on some of those. To be fair, that last death had nothing to do with my point, but it still stands.
but it does stand. That's what's important here, and putting yourself at risk is only going to pay off so long as 8-Bit aren't capitalizing on it. Right there, they do capitalize on the odd positioning of Daze, the rotation without information, and as much as it has been getting Wichita Wolves advantages, there we see that it can cost them as well. And 8-Bit might have just found a way to catch themselves back up in the game. And as I say that, I realize that, I mean, as much as I expected the goal to be even, it's actually advantaging 8-Bit a little bit.
Yeah, that bot lane turret take was pretty massive for 8-Bit. They got most of the plates off of it as well before it went down. So that's really where we're seeing that slight gold differential. but the tempo still feels like it's Wichita's Wolves side simply because you have the Nunu, you have the Blitzcrank, and those two are the ones making the plays on the map. While Thirst on the Kindred has been able to find things, it's mostly off mistakes or really, really good positioning. It's not these brute force moves that we're seeing coming through from Wichita Wolves.
As much as the Wichita Wolves have been forcing plays here, they've kind of taken a back foot as we prepare for the next dragon. They've already got two, but with one coming up in 50 seconds, an Ocean Soul going to hit our Rift very shortly. They want to be setting up for this. They want to be getting themselves as close to it as possible because it can solo win you a game. And Thirst, almost getting caught out, could be just the end of a dragon play if he does.
Yep, both teams are gearing up for this 100%. The Bud walking out right now does have TP though, and Dragon in 25 seconds. If you get a kill right now, that's your Dragon. The other team cannot contest. Snow actually burnt TP to get back here in time.
This is actually where I think Blitzcrank is the most impactful, as Chains of Corruption get burnt to try and find the Blitzcrank. That's one ultimate now, one big tool that you're missing, but the poke has come through, and Wichita Wolves are playing very respectfully around Cleanse. They drop that Rift Herald in the mid lane to try and get something here, and it seems like they're forfeiting the Dragon, wanting to go for the objectives instead. Fish Our Friends is pushing in though. Super Mega Death Rocket goes in, doesn't find the Dragon. They're not going to find the team fight afterwards either. Instead, it gets served to them by Denizzle, who goes for the engage, gets a Gnar into the wall, deletes a Snow. Grimm's in the backline, still trying to pump out the damage here as Thirst walks forward, and it's Wichita on the retreat. They do not give up another kill, but they get nothing in all of that.
They lost though before the shockwave could go down. The catch, the burst was huge, and this is good for 8-Bit because everything's been teetering on a knife's edge for the last 5 minutes here. And though small, this lead is still a bit of a lead. We're seeing that if 8-Bit get to a position like we talked about in game 2 here, Dia, it's the same thing here in game 3. If they get to a position, they can definitely fortify and defend it. And Wichita Wolves are struggling to find a solid engage in.
And it's a tough thing to find an angle on because they either have to just face tank with Fish Our Friends, walk it all in, and he's not the most ahead this game, certainly has died, unlike the previous time that we saw him, and Day needs to get a little bit lucky, has to try and find that outskill on an angle here, and when neither of those things are lining up at a crucial time, it just means that you can't approach, and it's the unfortunate reality of Wichita Wolves' composition. As good as it is, as much as it shines, the weakness is there and it's evident. 8-Bit, they managed to outplay whatever you want to say around that dragon, and they get themselves a little bit further into the game here. That soul won't be available for Wichita.
And I want to give them huge props for their vision as well. They always track where Daze is. Look at the ward in the middle of the lane right there. That is precisely to prevent Blitzcrank from just popping the overdrive, charging at you, and then pressing Q. And they had all vision around the pit as well. They knew at all points where the engage was going to be coming from, and that's why they could secure it. If they continue to keep up this vision, it very much negates the strength of this Blitzcrank here.
And it puts us back into a neutral game state. The fact that we aren't getting any fights around the objectives in the near future with no Rift Herald available right now, we're kind of just sitting pretty in the side lanes, and the people who win the side lanes, it feels like it's 8-Bit right now, but with a Nunu coming in here, if we can find a skirmish, it could change everything. Daze goes low, is still alive though, goes for the hook, doesn't find it, and now almost goes down. That heal buys him a second, but it is not nearly enough. 8-Bit, they dance around, they get another kill, they get themselves further ahead, and now they're looking for the mid lane tower.
You have to be careful though. This is a Jinx, only sat on the one item right now. I'd love to see when that second item comes in, the fights go rather differently. So Wichita Wolves, I think, just need to basically play back a little bit, play a little safer for a short while until they hit that power spike.
Snow really wants that blue buff, but the threat just isn't quite enough. We go back to the side lanes after that play, and Denizzle is the one being aggressed on Mabut. Actually might find this solo kill. No flash available on the Gnar. It's going to be enough there as he takes a pistol to the face.
Okay, that's a win con we kind of forgot about. Yeah, it's been a while since we saw Mabud really get into the action, but the fact that you can 1v1 Denizzle is absolutely huge. Now take that barrel, bring it into a team fight, and I think Cleanse, Kelsight, Cinna, that might be like a 1/3, maybe 40% of their health in one barrel.
Yeah, this is certainly going to be a big amount of burst when those barrels are landing in the team fights, but forcing one is difficult. Finding picks, not nearly so much. Snow's getting aggressed on the backside, though the shield is going to be
Ooh.
enough for now, and Thirst overextends, gets a little too thirsty for his own good, and it's going to fall right under the tier 1 top lane tower.
I like the fact that Thirst actually held that Lamb's Respite because there's no point. You know it was done. And now, actually, Baron, pardon me, is on the table here. You have a Nunu, very, very tanky, pseudo-tanky, able to sustain backup. You do need Grim, though. Without that Kraken Slayer, the take is going to be so slow.
And Grimm's arrived with no jungler, no mid laner on the table. Do we even see a contest? Whoa, Calcite gets taken on a magical journey into the Baron pit. Is going to come out alive at the cost of a flash, but the Baron's still burning down, and Fish Our Friends does secure it, doing what the Nunu do. In Wichita Wolves, they're the ones that are now ahead in gold and in tempo.
Yeah, after game one, I said that I don't think a Nunu ban is necessary if you play respectfully. I'm starting to reconsider that.
He's
Right
good
now,
on Nunu, man. He's just good.
he looked really good on the Nunu. And just the ability to secure these objectives as well has been massive. It's great initiation for the side of Wichita Wolves. Every time we've seen that snowball be the thing to kick the action off, even more than the hook, I feel like it's the snowball that's key for Wichita Wolves right now.
Yeah, and it's so reliable as well. We'll see how much they can rely on it around the Dragon, though, because they are a little bit late on this rotation, and Unique Vision does belong to 8-Bit. They can just burn this Drake down, keep the soul away from Wichita Wolves, and hope that they can win the team fight afterwards. Fisher Friends is in the pit, though. Doesn't get the steal. Now needs to find the engage and is going for it with the big snowball. Denizzle tries to engage on the backline, gets a double gnar, but with no follow-up on him, you're just leaving the front lines isolated. Nunu ends up falling in at the pick in the favor of 8-Bit as they are slowly but surely corralled into the river. They have no escape right now. That tower is waiting for them. Safety is so near, but they're turning for the fight on today's, forcing the flash out of the Blitzcrank, walking right into Mabud. The big burst comes in, but even still, Mabud is going to fall. Snow picks up a kill on the side, and dancing around the edge of the vision are Wichita Wolves. The pick is enough, and 8-Bit will back off.
They have inside track. Wichita Wolves right now have Baron buff here, and nobody on 8-Bit can respond. Yes, you've got more members, but they're low on health, and more importantly, they're out of mana here. So sure, you get the kill, but you might lose a turret or even two for it.
Do you think they lose inhibitor tower here? It seems like Grimm's DPS is just not slowing down. Thirst isn't going to be able to answer on the flank. The Chains of Corruption don't connect. That's going to be a big cost to pay for a dragon.
Okay, Mabud is online. We've seen the damage Mabud can put out despite only being 1-1 and 2. Grim is now 3-1, definitely online. And Snow, that last fight was not the first one to go down. The burst that came out was huge. 8-Bit are definitely on the back foot right now. No objectives to fight over, but with a Nunu, with a Blitzcrank, it's not like Wichita Wolves have to sit around and wait for that next major objective. They can siege with the range advantage from the Jinx. If you ever step out far enough, you get hit in the face with a snowball. Even if you don't step out far enough, if you're at your turret range, a hook drags you out, and it's still a kill. I want to see this Wichita Wolves siege.
The thing that does make me hopeful for 8-Bit is that they at least do have those two dragons, and whether it be a sole win condition emerging for them or just denial of the win condition for Wichita Wolves, it gives a lot of time and scaling over to 8-Bit. My question is that time even in their favor?
Not really. You don't have... So, for the side of 8-Bit, what they're relying on in the late game is the skilling they're relying on primarily is that Kindred. But compared to the Jinx, that Kindred, how many marks does she have, by the way? 7 marks right now, 600 range. You're going to have to wait till, I think, much, much longer before you hit that 700 range. And we already saw Grim will absolutely beat Thirst in just a straight-out free fire at each other there. So the skilling, at least in the next 10-15 minutes, is more in favor with Wichita Wolves, with the Gangplank, with the Jinx here.
I'm hoping they can stay safe to show us what that looks like. Wichita Wolves still do have to play around 8-Bit's desire to make plays, as this is not a team that has shown us that they will sit down and take what is given to them. They will try and go for these plays where they can, and the vision suggests it, as even at this big disadvantage with no mid lane towers, they are maintaining some form of defensive control over their own jungle.
And I love the fact that you bring that up, Tia, because right now, when you're behind, you do need vision to set up a catch. And because there's no objectives, neutral objectives to be fought over, putting defensive vision is great. When Wichita Wolves look to push up, which they should be doing here, you can always flank and potentially find a pick there. You can see top side completely warded. They're looking for that. And bot side, that outer turret, I mean, that's gonna go down. But
It's
the
gone.
moment
Yeah.
the moment you push up beyond that, you're done and dusted. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
the thing that I do really like about it is I'm gonna have to hold the point for Mabud to get collapsed on. No escape for the gangplank means him going down and costing a lot of pressure on the map for Wichita Wolves.
Yep. Sorry, Dia, was that what point were you gonna make? Was that
Oh yeah. I was going to say that they're getting good pressure on the bot side for the next dragon. That seems to be the focus of the game. But if you're missing your top laner, it's kind of gone.
I mean, to be fair, Mabud will be up, and again, the teleport is still available. Mabud has held on to that for a very, very long time now, so will be up in time for the dragon. And frankly, all the ocean drakes in the world don't matter that much to 8-bit right now when they're on the back foot. If they were sieging, great, but unless you can get the soul, that passive regeneration isn't the issue. The issue is the sheer burst damage that will come out when you get hit by a hook, when you get hit by a snowball, when you get hit by any sort of hard CC. The ocean drakes don't matter.
No, they really don't, and that's the biggest problem for them right now. They are still looking to address it by getting themselves some defensive vision. Blue buff, though, nicely secured by Wichita Wolves, is going to be one less reason to pop your head into the blue side of jungle. Even more so is a big Nunu with a snowball. Denizo goes golden. A big hook in onto Thirst, forces that lands respite on just the two isolated targets, but a four-man Gnar would have turned the fight. There's just no backup. There's nothing to be done as everyone is zoned out. The super mega death rocket from Grim connects, finds yet another kill, and they don't even need the dragon. They're looking at the big purple worm.
They're being greedy here. They're going for both the objectives. Mabud on his own. This is not safe, and the pings come down. Cinna and Cleanse think that no one's there.
I don't know. I don't know who's being too greedy here. Mabud does end up flashing away. Still almost gets the kill, though. Cinna barely manages to survive, but that Baron is already gone. Well, the 2 GPS from 8-bit get themselves soul point. It's not a bad trade, but TP here could turn that all around. Snow is ready to go. Almost gets Cinna at the end there, but they just need to focus on the dragon. They still pick it up. 8-bit keep themselves in contention for the soul while losing everything else.
They can consent for soul all they want because nobody's going to be on Summoner's Rift in 5 minutes here. Baron just picked up 2 members down. They can just push for the finish.
That might be exactly what Wichita Wolves are doing right now as Inhibitor ends up falling, and Grim, the leader of the team right now, is pushing forward. 5, 1, and 2 on this Jinx, unchallengeable in the back line, and no access from 8-bit. Means it's very hard to engage right here. Wichita Wolves, though, they won't push for that sweet, sweet end. Instead, living to fight another day.
Okay, I think they're being a little conservative, but you know what? That's fine. It's better to make the high percentage play right now. But did you see that, Dia? 2 rockets, and Thirst was down to about 2/3 of their health there. That's just poke, and right now, no one can answer that range. Grim has been unthreatened in all of these fights. The only time we really saw them under threat was when everybody kind of walked into Denizo in Mega Gnar farm. But even then, nobody dies. And if that's the way the fights are going, I just don't see a way for 8-bit to win a front to back.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I want to throw it back here to Mabud on the gangplank, because he was the one person not caught in that Gnar, and the amount of threat that he was able to put out kept everybody from following up on what would otherwise have been a beautiful engage. Wichita Wolves have actually drafted themselves a really sort of ingenious composition here that puts everybody in a really good position to put out area threat, to throw denial of access to a team fight.
Now, they do still have to be careful here. They are a little bit split up. Snow is not with them here, and as strong as they are, that's an equal numbers. Fish Our Friends going real deep here? Okay.
Would it be Fish Our Friends if he wasn't, though?
I mean, it's worked so far for the most part. Oh, that rocket.
Oh, change of corruption on Grim, though. That's huge. Grim gets from below. Better nowhere, and the Lamb's respite, it saves everybody else's life. Denizo wants even more than just saved lives, though. He wants a death, and he finds a Snow in the stuns. Daze is going to be followed up on, and one misstep from Wichita Wolves. It is deadly, and it is eaten up by 8-bit.
Oh, yeah, we can throw the caster curse in the bin. We just gave them a caster blessing. Just as we're saying that Wichita can still overextend. They do just that, and they keep 8-bit in the game here. That's Baron buff off pretty much everybody except Fish are friends here. So the push is over, and they only get one turret for their pains. They do not manage to crack a second entry into the base.
Be really tough for them now, as without that second entry point, you've only got so much pressure to work with. And what a unfortunate series of events there to see Grim overextend. That kind of thing, that kind of play, no matter what the stage in the game is, no matter how much scaling you have, it will lose you the game, which the Wolves have got to tighten up.
For sure, and I think this will temper their expectations. I think they're a little bit running high on the last couple of fights there. You know, Grim's get excited, applied to the player instead of the champion a little bit over. And honestly, it doesn't mean that 8-bits are miraculously into the game. They are still firmly on the back foot at this point in time. But in a minute and a half, they could change that. If they are the ones to get the Ocean Soul, as much as I'm saying the Ocean Drakes don't matter, the Soul does, because that will apply in combat and that will constantly tick up. And if they can survive the initial burst, then they can bounce back. Grim can only target so many people at the same time. If you don't clump up, then Grim's going to take a while to chew through everyone.
Wichita Wolves have got to be kicking themselves right now for not securing that dragon, for not making the safer play earlier to pick up both the objectives, because right now they are at risk of giving the game back to 8-bit. Cleanse does get zoned out of the river, but doesn't actually get connected on him. We got to wait for the next cooldown on the snowball, the one engage tool that Wichita Wolves have, but they're pinging for the mid lane priority. Are they pinging for the end of the game?
Trying. They've got the inside track, but this is real scary for them because Denizzle is charging up that rage bar right now. And
he's very, very close to Meganar. He's actually looking for the engage right now. Good engage from Snow. Is still going to get caught out. Triple Gnar there is so big for 8-bit, but the flash from Grim is enough to reposition him. And now he's the one burning through. Your team first eats a Mega Death Rocket, and it lives up to its name. From the side, though, Jerry BS is out. Grim, Denizzle finishes him off with Cena, and 8-bit out execute on Wichita Wolves. They get themselves the team fight. They could get themselves the dragon.
You can blame that last fight on the fight before this one on Grim overstepping. This one was all Denizzle, knowing when the rage bar was up. And this is peak Gnar play. This is what you want to watch pros do. And Denizzle just found the entry. Sure, Thirst is down, but they can zone out Fisher Friends. Fisher Friends cannot even get close enough to flash here.
Yeah, he needs just the blast cone, but there's no entry right now. He is buying time for the rest of his team, but it's all this Nunu can do, and even that is not going to stop the dragon from going down. That is Ocean Soul to 8-bit.
I think my relationships with Wichita Wolves might sour a little bit. I seem to be giving 8-bit a little bit too much of the caster blessings there as they get themselves the Ocean Soul. And we were talking about it just moments earlier, the fact that if you get Ocean Soul, sure, you are on the back foot. Sure, your scaling is not as great, but just getting it gives you so much sustainability, and you're kind of back in the game. You're not necessarily winning, but at least you can contest. Baron is up, and Wichita Wolves are in place here. This is another try. For
8-bit are ready to contest now. Oh no, the big pick, though, means that Thirst goes down, and that's no contest, Ocean Soul or not.
Okay, finally, after multiple caster blessings, the caster curse comes through, unfortunately. And Thirst oversteps a little bit. And this is that Blitzcrank, right? You talk about how, okay, Daze has missed majority of the hooks. That's fair. But he landed the one that mattered. He found Thirst, and they secured themselves. Baron, they can push in. This is exactly the situation they were before. Please don't base. Please push to end this time.
I think this should be the end of the game here, because Ocean Soul or not, it is a 5v4. Fish Our Friends is ready to engage, but they're eating a lot of poke from Cleanse, and they are going to back off. And Wichita Wolves not taking your advice here. They're going to try and make that safe play.
15 seconds for Thirst. Before Thirst was going to be back up there. They could have pushed a little bit harder. They're going for the safe play again. And again, the safe play is not a bad thing if they play it right. My concern is for Snow and Grim, because their positioning on these last couple of pushes have been a little sus after a very clean early game here.
see if they can clean that up when it does matter the most. Daze is on vision right now, which actually saves Calcite's life, whether he knows it or not. Snowball is channeled. We'll see if the engage comes through. Cleanse has just burned arrow, and it's going to zone everybody off of this tower as the tools are not there. But from the side, the chunk is enough to keep the backline away as frontline Fish Our Friends is going to fall.
He's doing so much work right there. He just 1v4 that by going mega, and you could see all of Wichita Wolves just backed out. Nobody wanted to step forward because they now know to respect the Nizzle, and they do manage to fend off that Baron. Baron's still on 4 members, but they get to a counter push of their own, and this outer turret has been low for the last 15 minutes. It finally gets taken down, and they're going to continue pushing? No, that's
Yeah, you've got 25 seconds as 8-bit where you are the ones with a numbers advantage. They make the most of it there by taking down the mid lane tower, but if they can find and engage, they themselves could be the ones to close the game. Wichita Wolves look for a pick, don't find it, and we're going to go back to that knife's edge of tension.
Are we sure this isn't a best of 3 and this isn't the last game of the night? Because the team is playing like it right now. It's so back and forth. And I know the scaling favors Wichita Wolves. They don't make no mistake. Right now, they should be in the driver's seat here. But it doesn't feel that way off the last couple of fights. It just feels like it's been down to execution. The smallest of mistakes. Fish Our Friends overstepping. 2 Teemos, 3 Teemos distance apart, get separated. We see, if Thirst oversteps a little bit, gets hooked, fights over right away here. And I really don't know which way it's going to go.
It's really tough to say, and part of it for me, I just want to illustrate what it has been doing in these fights is not just Denizzle, but Cleanse as well has been chunking out the backline from completely off their screen. It has nothing to do with them almost. It's not personal, it's just business, but his business is hurting like a truck right now, and if he can continue to find these arrows, it's going to make it so much harder for Wichita Wolves to take fights because their carries simply cannot just be walking in at half health.
They need to find a better way to get that backline, because if you don't get all up in Cleanse's business, his business will get all up in you right now. And are they base racing? What on earth is happening? How?
I think that might be exactly what's happening. Grim is trying to contest it, which is super weird right now, but with 8-bit, they're happy to take this gambit. There's no engage here. Remember that there's no Nuno around. Thirst gets hooked, but he can survive. Grim cannot. He forced the cleanse out of him, and now without a Jinx, you can't survive the ensuing push either. 8-bit, they get a pick. They equalize the inhibitors, but in the top lane, Wichita Wolves, they keep on base racing as well. 8-bit just have to keep them around, and you get 2-4-1 there. Wichita Wolves do manage to stay alive.
Really well played from the side of 8-bit here. They split the Nizzle and Thirst right up immediately. Daze, no!
He's gone!
He can push!
And Mabud might go down as well. If you lose 2 picks here, you might just lose the entire game. That barrel does God's work, slowing everyone up. And Fish Our Friends looks for the engage. What a TP, though, into the back as Snow is trying to finish off the base. I think they just did it. The cleanse comes in, the last auto lands, and Wichita Wolves outplay to push themselves to match point.
What on earth did we just witness, Dio?
Somebody replay, somebody clip. I'm clipping that. I'm clipping that right now. What on earth is going on there?
Absolute gonads of steel right there to go for that play. They baited out, and it's the perfect ending to this game. The way it was going back and forth, it really didn't come down to the comp. It just came down to just teleporting on an exposed open nexus there. And yeah, this just makes me like I don't know how we go into game 4 from here. Like, what on earth could just top this game 3?
I think we go into game 4 expecting a game 5 because out of that, it could have and arguably should have been 8-bit winning it. It was the creativity from Wichita Wolves, the slightly off color play that comes with a Nunu, that comes with the off meta gangplank here, that comes with the Blitzcrank pick. It is their personality that ends up getting them that win. But make no mistake, it was just moments away from being 8-bits, and I'm really impressed with both the performances that we just saw in the Rift. You ask me what we're going to see in game 4, I hope we see more of this.
Just a couple of thoughts, before we head out here. I think Fish Are Friends, the Nunu pick is
Mhm,
huge, but 8-Bit played around it great in the late
mhm.
game of that game there. They almost completely nullified Fish Are Friends. So that pick, I'm not sure we're gonna see a ban still from 8-Bit because of how well it played. What I am very worried about for the picks of 8-Bit is that they're sort of what can they play to sort of carry here. They kind of surrendered the early game, and this draft was good. Cinna popped off. Denizel was an absolute monster. He's got my MVP vote. I know Wichita Wolves won it, but I still want to give it to Denizel because Denizel had to carry the whole team through the mid.
Mhm.
Cleanse did really well on this Varus as well. And despite all of that, despite Thirst getting what was that, 9 marks total, I think that game, they just could not pull out a substantial win here. So where does 8-Bit go from here with their backs against the wall? What they need to pull out some kind of crazy pocket pick.
Yeah, we'll see what they have in store. Is Wichita Wolves? I'm expecting to swap things up as well. Do you run the Nunu two times in a row? They shied away from it last time, and I honestly don't think that they pick this up one more time because 8-Bit were playing around it really well. It might be the calibration to the Nunu that is just too much. I think we're going to see a lot swapped up. What I'm hoping is that we get yet another close game like this because this is the kind of series that I want to see and that I know I want to serve to all of you. So after a very short break, we'll be back with Game 4 of Wichita Wolves versus 8-Bit. Welcome back, folks. We have made it to the draft of Game 4 of 8-Bit versus Wichita Wolves. Based on draft, we can't say anything. Even at the end of draft, we won't know what the game is going to look like because these have been a roller coaster of a series. But we're getting into it right now, so let's go ahead and break down why on earth is Nunu banned RMC.
Well, they're bad because Fish, our friends, plays it disgustingly well here. I remember mid-game, I think it was that I told you. Yeah, I'm starting to see that maybe, yeah, the Nunu is worth a ban here because honestly, yes, they controlled it great in the late game, but just the sheer utility Fish, our friends, has on it, and the early game damage has been enough to swing things Wichita Wolves' way multiple games.
Yeah, with that tool gone, I'm curious to see what way Wichita respond because last time they tried to pivot to the Skarner, it didn't work out so hot. That early gank potential that Nunu brings to the table is something that it seems like they're relying on. And 8-Bit do have first pick here. I wonder if they try and take something away from the pool of Fish Our Friends, or as I saw the Jinx, I went, no, I'm dumb. Of course they picked the Jinx.
I mean, to be fair, I was actually wondering if they would do the Jinx because it seems right now that Varus has risen to the same priority as the Jinx, so they can always trade back and forth. But I was more watching for the Galio because so far Galio's been played, has had 100% presence, played the first two games on either side, on the winning team for both sides, and in game 3 was just completely banned away. So now Wichita Wolves have managed to get their hands on this pick that worked so well for Snow back in game 1.
And I'm impressed that they've gone for the Varus here, especially after the odd performance from it the last time that it was in their hands. 8-Bit, though, definitely have an answer to an immobile AD carry. If you're going Wukong and Orianna, even more so than Alistair, you are definitely looking to dive really hard onto the back line.
I was actually going to pop off on the whole Wukong thing because Wukong into Varus is something that came about in the past, and it was actually there was talks about Wukong ADC in Europe to deal with the Varus ADC, but unfortunately, it's not. It's an Alistar.
Wait a minute. So the
Jink,
Wukong is
Orianna.
Alistair.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's not the first time we've seen this from you, 8-Bit. Let's not get it twisted here. The drafting strategies are very clear: confuse and deny. So we won't be getting the Wukong here, but the Alistair Orianna is still a really good combination.
Interestingly, we see the Braum support picked up right away by Wichita Wolves. I have mixed feelings about doing this right here. I mean, the Galio was a flex pick. It is no longer a flex pick, and you're picking a Braum into a Jinx here. So it really tells me that they're really wanting to protect that Varus. But I feel like against a Jinx, you need to engage because if you can't find Jinx, you lose games. We've seen that multiple times.
Yeah, this is going to be a kind of tall order for Wichita Wolves, but they do still have the option of pulling that from the jungle and top lane. Lanes that are rife with engage options, with dive options as well. And I'm curious to see what they save for last pick here because they've got the option of doing jungle and mid, and I suspect it's going to be jungle.
They're trolling us. That Alistair ban, that's not an Alistair ban. Alistair has already been picked. That is a Silas ban coming through from 8-Bit. They're struggling a little bit with their pro draft here, but that makes sense to me. I mean, we talked about the Silas here, and I've been informed that Mabud plays the Silas very, very well. So they're trying to deny it away from the hands of Mabud here. What? I've not seen J4 in a long time here. And if you're picking J4 Braum Galio, your top laner better be somebody who can output damage. Could it be Rumble?
It could be Rumble. That's right. It would be a really good layer on top of the Cataclysm here. Would shut down Jinx really well, but it is still going to be difficult to access the backline. Make no mistake, because Jarvan does not have uncontestable access there, and you got to deal with an Olaf on the other side. Wichita Wolves have a really tall order here to try and find something that checks all of their boxes at once. Backline safety, threat on Jinx. Is there anything that I'm missing?
I'm sorry. I'm gonna be fully honest with you. I kind of zoned out for a second when I saw the Olaf pick. They picked Olaf into J4. J4 picked to counter Olaf. What?
It's not. Here's the thing. It's not about the J4 because J4 isn't. He doesn't care about Olaf, or he shouldn't. Because what he should be caring about is Jinx. If you're spending your time as J4 putting Olaf in a Cataclysm, you're losing the game, and that's all it is. Because you've got a Jinx on one side and a Varus on the other. So Olaf is picked to threaten Varus, and Jarvan is picked to threaten Jinx, and they're going to ignore each other. That's my theory.
It sounds right, yeah, but part of me who's been playing since like season 1, is just screaming that this makes no sense. And hold up here, it's not okay. Wichita's Wolf draft cohesion just went from me from like 90% to like 50%. You've got an amazing wombo combo, amazing AoE with the Galio, Brom, Jarvan. Theoretically, if you put anybody into that cage, they should just be instantly dead. But you needed some sort of AoE to really finish that up. They went with a Nocturne instead. I like the Nocturne pick in isolation. Like, it does great into Jinx. It's a great answer. It will do great into the Orianna as well. And if Olaf is charging in, if Alistar's going in, they don't. You know, you've got to pick your poison. Either you lose Jinx or you lose Olaf right off the bat, and there's still J4 to follow up. But it does leave them a little bit lacking in terms of their team fight department, especially when you compare that to a Jinx Orianna, where if you're ever grouped up, they're just going to wipe you.
Yeah, and I think that the idea here for Wichita Wolves is to get an early and mid game that makes that not even a question, that nullifies the team fight of 8-bit completely with deletion. Because when I look at Wichita, I see that the thing that they have in spades is pick, the ability to CC you to absolute death and make sure that not a whole lot of answer can come back on them. If they can get this to be a 5v4, the team fight composition of 8-bit won't matter, and it's something that is difficult for Wichita to execute on, but certainly something that I think they can pull off.
And the other positive of Wichita's composition right now is actually going to be their laning phase. You have double globals, and we saw in game 1, in game 2, that normally if you pick on the global or the lane with the global, they kind of go down. It's the easiest lane to pick on. But now you've got 2 globals. If you pick on the Galio, the Nocturne shows up. If you pick on the Nocturne, Galio shows up as well. And you pair that with a heavy ganking jungler like the J4 who can pull a level 2 cheese and is just really potent at ganking any of these lanes here. Suddenly, 8-bit actually have very risky laning phases. Even if you ward out, you've basically got to keep top constantly warded, mid constantly warded, jungle constantly warded. You just don't have enough wards.
Yeah, and it really does feel like it's about Fish Our Friends. Mabud should be enabled in this top lane against the Karma, but I'm focusing on what you threw back earlier with the Jarvan has the ability to put out level 2 cheese. He does, and when we might not see it, the early ganks from this champion can be devastating, and especially into what is a pretty immobile bot lane with the Jinx Alistar. I expect, nay, demand that we see action from Fish Our Friends early to really lock down the Varus is winning lane now. Because if he is, he's going to be oppressive and 8-bit have no options. But if we see an early game where Fish Our Friends can't make things happen, like with the Skarner, they're going to arrive at a mid game where all of a sudden they're outclassed.
Or the side of 8-bit on the other side here with their composition. Usually when you see a Jinx picked up, the comp is largely about the Jinx, but I actually think 8-bit have drafted a composition that's going to be playing around Thirst, which they kind of have done for the last couple of games with the Kindred, pardon me. This time they've got the Karma, you've got the Orianna. Thirst has a lot of backup, a lot of shielding, and I think Kelside can just sit back and protect Cleanse. So they've kind of got 2 units running here. You've got the unit that wants to go in, and you've got the unit that peels back. And the moment Thirst is dead, suddenly those shields get switched to Cleanse, to the Jinx here. So first side of Wichita Wolves, they either have to have enough damage to burst down the Olaf really quickly, and all through those shields as well. I think Serpent Fang is actually a legit item that people sleep on, and it's actually going to be super useful this game. Either that, or they must have the ability to kite back and buy enough time so that they can wait out the Ragnarok, and then their CC can come into play.
Well, let's see which it is here, because we're into the spectator delay RMC, and we could be going into our last game of the night. If Wichita Wolves do get ahead, this could be it for 8-bit, and they're the ones that have to fight with tooth and nail to survive through the early game, to make it to the late, and show Wichita Wolves who it is that deserves to be in those finals. We'll find out what happens on the Rift right after a very short intermission. We return to the Rift once more in 8-bit versus Wichita Wolves, a series that could end this very game. And if it does, well, Wichita Wolves, they have drafted a composition that needs to do it very quickly.
And I feel like they have all the tools they need to do it with here, Dia. I mean, you've got the Braum to deal with the Alistar, the poke from Varus. We've touched on that before. We've seen it in multiple games this series. We've seen even the Galio pressure. I mean, Galio is not known to be particularly lane dominant, but so far in game 1 and game 2, Galio found not quite solo kills, but definitely won the lane. And topside, Nocturne into Karma favors Nocturne as well. You pair that with the potential cheese or strong ganking from a Jarvan, and technically, at least on paper, Wichita Wolves should be able to find a strong early lead.
Yeah, and a lot of that revolves around not just the lanes that they have, but the jungle. And we talked about it a little bit in draft. I personally want to see Fisher Friends go top. Does that feel like a viable win condition?
Yeah, I think Fisher Friends can go wherever they want. I mean, it's not Mundo, but just J4 can go where he pleases. But yeah, top. I want to see him go top along with you, Dia, more because getting a Nocturne ahead is to me the most explosive way to start things off. The cheese though coming out here from 8-bit, they're already pulling the minions.
Yeah, a little bit of fun had by Calcite and Cleanse, who should actually have a decent spot in this lane. The early pressure from the Varus does need a few levels to come on in, though as I say that, Cleanse is very dangerously low. Grim is the one who gets ignited, though, and a flash might just finish him off. First blood goes over to Calcite, and 8-bit, they might take it, but they aren't going to take it laying down. This is going to be a double kill for the bot lane as Daze. He's running out of health as well. Fisher Friends is hightailing it down. He might actually be able to survive here.
Oh, he baited them.
Fisher Friends is ready. He's going over the wall. He's going to find one pick on Calcite and Cleanse now. He's the one that needs to back off. Flashes are in. Fisher Friends, he's going to find the double kill. I spoke too soon. Wichita Wolves are ready to fight back.
Yeah, these teams have not calmed down since game 3 here. They're coming into game 4 with as high a pace as before. And when I said a level 2 cheese gang, that wasn't it. That was not what I was expecting. But it does put Fisher Friends up in terms of kills. Both kills going over to Fisher Friends is really far down in terms of camps. But once you go and get that first back here, that's when we're really going to see Fisher Friends find their lead over Thirst.
That's going to impact the map in such a big way too, because on the other side of this, Calcite is the one that got the kill. And it translated into boots, but the barrier of execution for an Alistar to actually find an appropriate time to roam into the Varus to translate that lead into something worthwhile is so much higher than a Jarvan who can permagank your map.
We should also point out too that that set Cleanse actually really far behind. Look at the CS discrepancy, and this was the big wave pushing in to Grim here. So that CS discrepancy is only going to get larger, and there's also a bit of an experience discrepancy from those double kills. Now Thirst, Kelsa, and Cleanse roaming together here. You can't lock down Fisher Friends.
Yeah, Fisher Friends is spotted right now, and they're going to try and pull out some sort of pincer maneuver, but realistically, you're right. You aren't going to find this, and you aren't going to find anything for pulling your bot lane out of the bot lane. The experience, the CS, it's only getting bigger.
This is terrible. Oh, and they're zoning them out. They're sacking Fisher Friends again. We saw this in game 1, but Fisher Friends knows how to find their own way back in. Oh.
And if he finds Cleanse and puts him down, it's going to be even worth their half health on this Jinx. Does get behind the tower, but this zone out is huge right now. And Fisher Friends is tickled by Jinx rockets.
While all this is going on, Thirst has decided I can't help my bot lane, rightfully so. It went to the top side into the jungle, pardon me, of Wichita Wolves, and was horrifically BM in that he took all the Raptors except for one small one here. So they're not looking for constant reinvades. He's just looking to try and slow down Fisher Friends and punish them experience-wise as much as they possibly can.
And it's worthwhile, and it's what you have to do, because at this point, you've invested so much into your Varus. We actually saw this. This is one of my favorite strategies that we saw during Worlds 2020. Was the pulling down of a jungler who has found themselves really far ahead, getting them a little bit behind at the cost of getting your ADC super duper pumped up. And now Grim gets this great recall, and it's up to Wichita Wolves to make it work, but I love the strategy.
Yep. And now I think for Fisher Friends, your job in the bot lane is done. I actually don't want to see Fisher Friends looking too much down into the bot lane anymore. I want to see transitions into the top, into the mid, your globals, and then let them go back to the bot lane. Bud
My
is
butt
taking
is
a lot.
almost dead. Yeah, that was a very surprising turn of events for the Nocturne after he messed up that spell shield. Almost ended up going down to Denizzle, who would have been happy to find himself a solo kill on the Karma. But for now, the reset is just on time, as it will get Mabud a chance to get items before he hits that level 6, so the level is even more explosive when it comes.
Slightly awkward timing. I think ideally, Mabud would have wanted to not get taken low and then let that wave bounce. Fisher Friends was looking topside a little bit and had a clear gang path in, but unfortunately wasn't able to convert onto that. But did go back, did pick up the first item, that Hearthbound Axe coming through. And if the Nizzle does not go back to match here, that lane's going to turn real bad real fast.
And they're very, very scary for this Karma. I want to see what Denizzle chooses to pick up right now, because that'll tell us a lot about the way that the game is planning to be played. If you go defensive, you're likely not going to buff up cleanse nearly as much, and it seems like this is going to be a cleanse buffing build, but unfortunately leaves you very exposed to the burst from that Hearthbound Axe.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually wondering for a second if they were going Moonstone Renewer, because Moonstone Renewer has been buffed again, or not say buffed again. Well, some of the nerf has been rolled back a little bit, and we get yet another. Has there been a single game where we haven't had a pause, dear?
I think it was the first one here. There's a few connection issues for Cena, it seems, and I find that a little bit worrying as somebody who is invested in the success of both these teams. But as we do come out of the pause, I do need to throw it to a quick technical break to make sure that we're all synced up. So we'll be right back, and please don't kill each other. Just a moment. Welcome back to Live, folks, and nobody has killed each other, and instead, we found ourselves with Cleanse and Calcite taking a reset. Dragon started by Fish Our Friends, and the map going in the favor of Wichita Wolves.
As it pretty much has been since the early abuse into the bot lane level 1. And ladies and gents, please remember, Risen Esports does not condone or support abuse. Whatever Wichita Wolves are doing is their own problem here in this bot lane.
Yeah, but it is a really, really big problem. They've got to address it soon, and this Dragon pickup is good for Wichita Wolves, but it is just one piece of the puzzle they still need to keep putting together. The bot lane needs to continue getting served up. Right now, it's trying to transition it into the mid lane. They get the flash out of Cena, and it's a good start.
Right now, Fisher Friends is basically just support driver at this point. I'm just watching Thirst just outstrip in terms of CS. The CS differential between the jungles is the same as the ADCs, but the difference is jungle camps are worth more here. So Thirst is actually further ahead. The discrepancy should be bigger in terms of the experience and the gold. Fisher Friends has enough gold from the kills to make that up, but the level discrepancy is huge. And now Ragnarok is available, Cataclysm is not.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough to take a 1v1 here, although Fish Our Friends does it anyway because it's not a 1v1. In comes Mabud, forces a flash, and it's ultimate traded for everything from Thirst. The entire lead there, and Snow dodging out on that shockwave just plays it dirty.
Guys make Galio look broken. Dia, is Galio meta all of a sudden? I thought he was like A tier, B tier, like B tier support, A tier mid. Oh, they're still going for this.
Yeah, he's kind of nuts. Remember that this is actually really spooky for Wichita Wolves. They can't contest with Olaf and Karma both grouped up. That is a deadly combo.
It was actually Thirst taking away that red buff at the end of it there. It does win out the Smite fight here, and that's just the strength of levels. That was the price that Fisher Friends are paying, it had to pay, and is now paying as they lose control of Herald as well.
And with the top side being forfeited, you're hoping that more bot side things go your way, but Grim did just whiff the Chains of Corruption at the level 6, and it pushes Daze back into the mid lane to try and make another play that isn't going to work out. Wichita Wolves, they need to sync up fast, control the vision, and make plays that actually have good setup and thought behind them, because right now, throwing their bodies at the wall isn't working to expand the lead.
only is it not really working to expand the lead, they're actually falling a little bit behind because the Nizzle is starting to pull a bit of a CS lead in the top side. Cinna in the mid lane as well, finding the lead despite the repeated visits from Fish, our friends, and Days here. The only winning lane is that bot side, and that difference, that 20 CS difference here, has kind of been that way for the last 2 minutes. So, like, roughly about 4 waves. Cleanse has seemed to be able to stabilize this bot lane a little bit.
And Cleanse is only behind about 100 gold right now. I'm going to say maybe 200 now as I toggle it once again to check in. So you do really need to pay a vision to exacerbate the problem for 8-bit, or you're just getting yourself the rest of the map falling behind, and nothing really gained here for Wichita Wolves, especially now that we have the level 6s. As Mabud's ultimate comes off cooldown once again, the global pressure needs to be there in a big way.
I'm also watching Grimm's cooldown on the ultimate. That's almost off as well. So bot lane could make something. I'm waiting for 6. Mid lane though.
Oh, Snow gets body blocked, has to burn his own flash, and Cena's will be coming up shortly. So there will be a small advantage there for the side of 8-bit, where now Snow, the only thing that he's got to his name is going to be that heroic entrance shortly. Might need to be used sooner rather than later. Fish Our Friends is being chased out here. Ragnarok gets invested in Days, throws up the Unbreakable to stay alive. Grim pumps in the damage though, finds himself not 1, but makes it 2 kills as Mabud arrives as well. And with the paranoia, cleans up a 3rd. Wichita Wolves, they take the fight confidently.
Things look dark. There's a 2-level gap between Fish Our Friends and Thirst, and it looked for a second like they're gonna run down, but Grim, who has been kind of babysat, raised this entire time, coming in huge here, and now that he's going back to base, should be able to pick up potentially the first mythic here, that Duskblade of Drakthar, most likely. Oh no, actually went just straight for the Manamune completion. Salt, yeah. Okay, because Caulfield Thor Hammer, yep. But did pick up the lethality. And this bot lane is going to feel even worse right now. It's not the biggest immediate power spike, but when that Manamune hits that conversion point that much sooner, that's when that bot lane's going to feel hopeless for Cleanse.
That really hurt. That was really tough. As somebody whose back has been stopped once too often. Snow's doing Cena dirty in the mid lane there by showing him that he can. I think Denizzle, though, might be overstepping just a little bit. That spell shield ever so slightly too early from Mabud saves Denizzle's life, oddly enough.
Oh, we're back to the bot side again. The support
doesn't have flash, he's dead.
Is he? He has ult?
He does. I mean, he has stand behind me as well. Fish Our Friends actually shows up just in time, and you can't push into Grim right now. Instead, Fish Our Friends, he's pushing into you. Flash over the wall, secures another kill for Grim, and I said Brum was dead. I didn't realize Wichita Wolves, they were going to go hard. Cleanse one more time is running for the hills, and remember the dragon just spawned as well, so it's not just 2 kills. It's going to be this next objective as well, picked up by the Wichita Wolves.
Topside, I'm just watching Mabud just kind of blend away here on Denizzle. The Nocturnes come in online. Your bot lane's winning. Your mid lane's super annoying. Not exactly winning, but did stop them out of the back multiple times. Things are looking dire for 8-bit right now. And they need to just kind of sit back a little bit and kind of go, okay, what do we want to do? Every time Thirst has looked to aggress, he's been punished. And yes, you don't want your Olaf to fall behind, but trying to force it with weak lanes, that ain't it.
No, and as a great man said, it ain't. But I would like to know what you think 8-bit's ways back into the game are at this point. Because if Thirst, the person that we were looking at with the composition built around him, can't go aggressive, who can?
I think they will still need to play around Thirst early because Cleanse is not coming online for quite a while yet. Has been set quite far behind. Great play from Wichita Wolves. But the difference is they need to do it when they know where Fish Our Friends is. And instead of focusing the bot side, they need to look at either the mid or the top lane because of the globals. So far, we've seen the globals thrown bot multiple times. And there are 2 to go down there, not including the teleport. So if you keep looking at the bot side, you'll always be at a numbers disadvantage.
It's a kind of a Twisted Fate special in a way. The bring yourself to the global as opposed to the other way around. That seems to be the answer there. It's going to be difficult with Snow always being able to respond, or Mabud always being able to respond, whichever way it does go. But as tall of an order as it is what 8-bit do have to fulfill in order to get themselves back into this game. Right now, with Grim being unleashed with a 2,000 gold lead in his pocket alone, it is a Wichita Wolves favored map for the moment.
Okay, they pulled that trigger a little off sync there, and that's Cataclysm and Paranoia blown. Paranoia
Mhm.
not even really being able to use to get back into lane or anything there. A huge wasted opportunity. And now Fisher Friends and Days went the wrong way.
Daze did look like he went the wrong way, but he could land a slow here. The problem isn't so much cleanse as it is this Braum being caught out, though. Doesn't have to stand behind me, and Cena has just shown up. He wants everybody grouped up. This Unbreakable is buying a lot of time, but the numbers just are not there right now for the Wichita Wolves. And as much as Grim wants to fight, you still can't walk up to an Olaf like that.
Little bit of a whoopsie there, I think. I really don't think that Blast Cone was meant to put Days in that
Mhm.
particular position here. The good news is they will get top lane for it here. The fact that Denizel wasn't there, isn't top side, is letting the free farm. Oh, don't do this side. Please don't do this side.
No. They actually can't. Grim is just going to delete Cleanse here. Calcite still goes for the kill, but in comes the Galio as well. The Ragnarok isn't there. You can't finish off Grim, and we begged you not to go for it. We said it aloud, but 8-Bit, they commit and they lose.
Things are spiraling way out of control. Yeah, Wichita Wolves. Okay, we talk about 8-Bit being a team that is great at playing around tempo. They are really good at it. We've seen that before. But the Wolves are the Wolves for a reason. And when they smell blood, they do not let up. Sometimes that leads to over aggression, such as Fisher Friends in game one, such as Days here in some of the more questionable plays. But they will not let up the pressure, and that is not good for 8-Bit. 8-Bit need to slow down the game. They can't fight right now. Herald is up. Wichita Wolves can just look to force this fight right here. They have chain of corruptions available, and the moment Glacier Fissure is up, Wichita Wolves should be able to win any team fight where both Grim and Days are present at.
You know what? I'll be honest with you, RMC. I didn't trust you. I fact-checked you, and you're right. It is Chain of Corruptions. I have lived my entire League of Legends career thinking that that was named Chains of Corruption. I I am losing my mind right now at how insanely wrong I have been my entire life. And you know what? If it's a round of Varus, I'm sure everybody is losing their mind at the moment. 8-Bit have a lot to think about. We're all very Varus centric. But the other thing that we need to remember is that the game can still become about other points on the map. With a Karma, with an Orianna, and with a Jinx, you do have team fight tools for 8-Bit. It's the thing that we highlighted about the composition.
Now, Shurelia's battle song picked up here by Karma. They do have to speed up. So Thirst is starting to get enabled. You've got the Strike Breaker as well. There's a lot of gap close here. And Thirst is a level up as well. But the problem is, where is Thirst looking at? Before, I already said, look for the solo lanes. Now they're starting to group up. You can't even look at that. Inferno coming up in 30 seconds here it almost feels like they're forcing 8-Bit to come to them. It is that soul point, and everything is on Thirst's shoulders here.
It's so scary too, because Soul would be devastating for the side of 8-Bit. But with a team fight that is a little bit mispositioned here, Thirst seems like he's caught out, but Grim is the one who's taking a lot of damage. Chain of Corruption does go wide, but it's still going to be a pick off on Cinna net for the Wichita Wolves. Now they get to fight a front to back with the Lethality Varus, and that is not a thing you want to be opting into. Double kill goes over to Nocturne. Days gets to tank things up for literal Days. And unfortunately, there won't be a single kill going to 8-Bit before they get put on soul point.
That Dragon as well here. You just can't contest it. The Karma and Jinx, the Rocket is available, so maybe a steal. They have a pink ward. Cleanse, can you do it?
Days still has the block as well. Gonna get taken down by the Dragon. So sad the auto-targeting there. Cleanse is waiting in the wings. Vision's uncontestable, but the Dragon is secured just barely. The health bars are low, but Wichita Wolves, they get themselves that extra little advantage.
The kill. They do manage to kill that Inferno Drake. It is more damage, and Wichita Wolves were already outputting enough damage. Look across the board here. 3-0-2, 4-0-7, 5-1-3. 3 out of 5 of their players are absolutely crushing it right now. They're huge damage threats. And Snow, 007 in the mid lane, quietly just pulling bodyguard duty on all these people. If any of them get jumped on, that hero's entrance once more available. 8-Bit don't have a window to make a play.
This ain't just Shirelius Galio either. This guy's going for the damage. It's not going to be lacking for the side of Wichita Wolves. And honestly, Snow is going to burn through Thirst as much as anyone else with the magic penetration that he's getting, with the immense amount of burst that Galio can put out when you underestimate him. Nobody should be face checking this. Cleanse can't approach a fight. The Duskblade was just picked up, adding so much more oomph to Grim right now. And with Rift Herald available as well, with the world being their oyster, 20 minutes is coming up. We could see a Baron. Wichita Wolves, I want to see their end of game plan.
I actually want to see Moses take the Herald first before it despawns like it did last time. But oh, bot lane, wow, that's solo.
Yeah, and end of game plan, my butt. They're just going to run it down in the lanes. Mabud is having a great time against the Karma now with a full Stride Breaker completion and a support Karma on the other side. You're going to kill that every day of the week. Chain of Corruption doesn't land onto Cleanse, but Snow, he's going to zone you out anyway, and this turret is going to get chunked out a little bit more. Wichita Wolves, they are closing the vice.
But while they're closing the vice, looks like the weakest, the slowest of the pack.
Mabud! No! He almost lived! His death will be mourned in another lane, though, as everybody makes plays everywhere else. Grim picks up another 2 kills, and that makes for a very, very spooky Varus as they approach this Baron. 2 picks are theirs. Mabud may be down, but Wichita Wolves, they still run the Rift.
Oh, this is ambitious here. I actually don't know if they could take it right now. Okay, there we go. They're sending out a death push. That makes a lot more sense. They walked over a ward, so they knew that, or 8-bit would know that they're looking for the Baron here. And frankly, it doesn't take much to stop it. They're still kind of squishy. They're looking really good, but it's mostly because they're killing 8-bit before 8-bit can actually put down the damage here. Baron, on the other hand, would shred them. So wisely, they back off. They don't scare me. And now they can just look. That bot lane outer turret, they can easily take that. It's not terribly healthy, and no one can really respond. They've got topside heavily warded as well. And 8-bit, they can't blitz down the Baron.
No, and I think that right there, whether it's a really ballsy play or a lack of respect or what, 8-bit, they don't check that Baron with anything other than the Mega Death Rocket, and that's going to, well, be a cooldown down, but more so an indicator to me that even if Wichita Wolves has started that up, that they don't feel confident even approaching a team fight that Wichita Wolves are ready for. With a reset in their pocket, Wichita's never been more ready to make a Baron play.
And Wichita, now they take down that bot lane turret as well. They have vision. They know that Baron is kind of being cleared out. They can just leave Mabud pushing this bot side. We've already seen him completely just manhandle Denizzle there in the 1v1 and does have teleport. So you don't need the paranoia to go all the way topside. All you need is a ward from a buddy.
Fish Our Friends is clearing out that jungle that belonged to Thirst just moments ago, evening up the early game CS as the support Jarvan, he's getting paid back by his team now, and they continue to set up these plays in the bot lane. Interestingly enough, we're not going for a Baron play, we're going for the Dragon.
Oh, that's an Infernal Soul. You take those. That extra chunk when you combine it with the poke from a Lethality Varus is absolutely disgusting. TP being called down into the mid lane here. They're looking to try and force something real quick.
8-bit they need to get a pick. They need to find Grim somehow, but where are their engage tools? There are none. We haven't seen Calcite actually be able to find anything, but Daze, he's mispositioned. This could be the 4v5. He buys time, even more so with the Glacial Fissure, and everybody arrived, but is it too late? Into the backline goes Mabud. The Justice Punch is there with him, but he's being solo focused in the backline, still picks up a kill, makes it 2 before finally going down with the rest of Wichita Wolves. They can clean up for him. Denizzle's the last member left alive, and he is not long for the world. 10 seconds on this Infernal, but Wichita Wolves, they are feeling confident even without it.
That's me one of the worst engages I've seen, Dia, but it works for Wichita Wolves because Mabud is so far ahead. He literally sat in the middle of 5 and just destroyed Cleanse, did not care what anybody else was doing, and because it took so long to kill what kind of is a pseudo assassin right now. He's building tank, but he's finding the kill. So I'm going to call him a pseudo assassin because it took so long. The rest of the team could come in. They get Inferno Soul, and now Baron is just Wichita's fishing bait at this point. If 8-bit ever show up there, they're just going to get wiped.
And I'm so amazed by Wichita Wolves' ability to pull off this composition that we said was an early game composition and still is. But I'm going to have to hold the point as Daze has once again pulled a classic Daze move and has overextended. So we're going to have to wait on that Baron play.
Well, the problem right now with killing days is that what happens after day? It becomes night, and paranoia is available. Mabud can dive this.
Uh, yeah, this is a very, very misled play, I think, by 8-Bit. We'll see if they can pull it off, but this is going to be a team fight opted into. Chance of correction, connect, and that's an Orianna that's nearly dead. Mabud, same deal, but he's the one with a Galio in his pocket, and there's no answer even into the backline. This time, Mabud survives. The triple kill goes to Grim with just the arrows flying through 8-Bit, and it's there, Baron. Don't you dare approach it.
I wasn't kidding, Dia, when I said that if they walk to Baron, they're gonna get wiped here. It doesn't matter whether you win or not. Even if they had 2 kills there, Baron is still risky from them. The armor shred that Baron applied came back to bite them huge. When Grim threw an arrow, they just dropped because that is armor penetration. Flat pen from Duskblade, that's 18 lethality. You've got the percentage from Serodia's Grudge, and you apply the debuff from Baron. They basically had no armor.
And it's a situation that you're never going to win against a Nocturne and a Lethality Varus. It's a combination that is meant for your demise, and they've served themselves that for certain as 8-Bit now trying to force a fight in the mid lane. They've got no responses here. Even Grim, he's going to be able to survive this easy. You never, ever had a chance, Thirst. Your team is being run down because Wichita Wolves, they are so far ahead that they're going to slap you with everything they got.
I think it's kind of a wrap at this point. TP coming in from Mabud as well. They're just, pushing in for the side of 8-Bit. 20 seconds before Thirst comes up, and you poured everything into this Olaf, who is now in the grave. You stall, you wait, and then when he comes back up, you make one final play.
Now, last time Wichita Wolves did make the safe play, but this time it seems like they are ready to fight. Mabud channels the paranoia. Calcite gets focused down on his own. Mabud still, the pseudo-assassin, finds the assassination. There's no approach here for 8-Bit. Wichita Wolves, they have fought so hard to get here. They've just got to finish off the last few kills. Everyone's trapped in the Cataclysm. They're focused down. 8-Bit, they might just be aced one more town, but the Nexus falls before they do. And Wichita Wolves, they took a bite out of crime and send themselves to the finals.
Yeah, I have to make an apology to the Wichita Wolves. I doubted you guys coming into tonight.
Who
They
were
looked
the
a
favorites,
little messy.
RMC? Who were the favorites?
It was 8-Bit. I'm sorry to say it, but 8-Bit looked good. But tonight, it's not as if 8-Bit performed poorly tonight. By no means. They just look bad because Wichita Wolves were so on point tonight, and it's just so clean. This composition, we said they had to win early. They didn't just win; they dominated the entire game. 6 deaths total. They killed 5 people for every 1 death they had.
And I want to bring attention to this right now. Think about the composition they had. Varus, Galio, Braum, Jarvan, Nocturne. You see this composition in LCS? I don't think so. These guys, they do not play by this standard League of Legends. What? Hold on. Where's their composition from before? At Jinx, Nunu, Orianna, Gangplank, Blitzcrank. Do you see that in LCS? I don't think so. These guys, they play their own game of League of Legends. And when they try and play someone else's, it might not go that well. But when they get the chance to play their own game, my God, no one can compete.
And now that Wichita Wolves have taken down the 8-Bit team here, they are the successful redemption story here. They're about to hit the peak of their arc when they face up next week against Miami University, Ohio's Red Hawks here, the team that took them down. And the last time they faced the Red Hawks, it didn't look clean. This time, they're coming in carrying the weight of each and every one of the teams that the Red Hawks took down into the losers bracket. And honestly, considering how much 8-Bit wanted to face them, Wichita Wolves had better bring it next week.
Oh, I bet they will, because if this team, if anything, has shown me that they can bring it back. They can get ready. They played with anger today. They played with frustration because they want to get back at a chance at that title. I'm excited to see them next week, and I bet you are too. So do not forget to tune in to this very stream, the Risen Esports stream next week, to check out who will walk away with the title for this season's Risen Divine League. It has been a pleasure casting alongside you, RMC. I want to throw a big thank you to Coleslaw for producing, to all of you in the chat, and of course to the teams for giving us such an immaculate series. Don't forget, mark your calendars, next Thursday, Wichita Wolves, they're going to hit the Rift again, and we'll see you there.